Chapter 862. The third guardian of the Devil Palace, Moonweaver, appeared in Dawn Moonchang, and she wore an elegant dress and had an extraordinary temperament. No one could tell she was from the devil race. On the stage, Hong Wan stopped playing the zither and walked down. She bowed and said, "Miss, please follow me." "Thank you," Moonweaver said politely. The two of them went upstairs. On the second floor, Hong Wan knocked on the door and waited for a response. "Come in." The pavilion master's voice sounded from the room. Hong Wan pushed open the door and walked in. "Pavilion master, the guest is here." "Got it." The pavilion master put down the scissors in her hand and said, "Go and prepare tea." "Yes." Hong Wan responded softly and turned around to leave. The third guardian of the Devil Palace, Moonweaver, greets the pavilion master. Moonweaver bowed. "Miss you, no need to be so polite. Please sit." The pavilion master smiled. "Thank you." Moonweaver stood up and sat down at the table. The pavilion master walked to a wooden basin and washed her hands. She wiped them dry with a white towel and sat down at the table. "Miss you, this is your first time here, right? How do you feel?" "Elegant and unique," Moonweaver said. "Ha!" The pavilion master chuckled. "It's truly an honor to receive such a high evaluation from Miss you. This is the first time someone has praised the pavilion like this." "Oh, did someone give other evaluations?" Moonweaver asked calmly. 100 years ago, a little girl who called me a black-hearted merchant said that the pavilion master's decorations were like a nouveau riche, the pavilion master said. Nouveau riche. Hearing this description for the first time, Moonweaver's eyes flashed. There aren't many people who can meet the pavilion master. "May I know the identity of this little girl?" "The disciple of the 9th disciple of the Mo clan." Hearing this, Moonweaver's eyes narrowed slightly. This Dawn Moon Tower master's words had a hidden meaning. The atmosphere in the room quieted down. At this time, Hong Wan pushed open the door and walked in. She served tea for the two of them, and then left. "Is the Saint Minister doing well?" the pavilion master suddenly asked. The Moonweaver was startled, but she quickly regained her senses. She said in a flat tone, "The Saint Arbiter is well. Thank you for your concern, Tower Master." "That's good. We haven't seen each other for hundreds of years. I miss you." The Waning Moon Tower's master took a sip of the tea in front of her and said calmly, "So it turns out that Tower Master and Saint Arbiter are old acquaintances. Pardon my disrespect. Since that's the case, the following matters will be easier to discuss." Moonweaver's beautiful face revealed an extremely indifferent smile. "My Devil Palace wishes to invite Pavilion Master to become a guest elder of the Devil Palace. What does Pavilion Master think?" The Dawn Moon Tower Master smiled and said, "The Devil Palace is filled with experts. There is the Saint Minister for Literature, the Devil Master for Martial Arts, and the 4 protectors under him for martial arts. Why do you still want to invite me? How could those who scheme against the world dislike having too many geniuses? Everyone in the Devil Palace has heard of the Tower Master's fame, and even the Devil Lord has praised you greatly. He ordered me to come and invite you," said Moonweaver softly. "The Lord of the Devil Palace hasn't come out of seclusion yet, right?" The Dawn Moon Tower Master raised her head and said calmly. Moonweaver's eyes narrowed. The Tower Master seems to be very familiar with the matters of the Devil Palace. "That's not it, but..." The Dawn Moon Tower Master twirled the teacup in her hand and calmly said, "The Devil Master is an expert whose every action is engraved by the world. Coincidentally, this Tower Master knows some divination techniques, so I know that the Devil Master has yet to come out of seclusion." Moonweaver fell silent. After a moment, she changed the topic and said, "Tower Master, you still haven't answered my question. The Devil Palace sincerely invites you, and I hope you can seriously consider it." The Dawn Moon Tower Master smiled faintly and said, "It's not that this Tower Master doesn't want to agree, but that I really don't dare to agree. The existence of the Devil Palace is not tolerated by the world. This Tower Master is not confident enough to resist the world. If you join the Devil Palace, why do you need to fear the world?" Moonweaver said calmly. "Now the Hall of the Dead, the Sword Pavilion, the Boution Pavilion, and the Ji family have all suffered varying degrees of damage. The Bai family has been staying in seclusion, and the Dao sect was destroyed by the Devil Palace tens of thousands of years ago. The remaining combat power of the 11 lineages of the past can be counted on one hand. Tower Master, do you think there is anyone who can stop the Devil Palace now? The saint of your sect is truly outstanding. In less than 3 years, you have consecutively caused great damage to several great lineages. This Tower Master has to say that I admire you. The Dawn Moon Tower Master exclaimed. Tower Master, you seem to be implying something. Moonweaver picked up her tea and took a sip. 3 years ago, the Hall of the Dead, the Sword Pavilion, the Butian Pavilion, and the Ji family were all unharmed. Ever since the conflict between the Ji family and Prince Qi over the death of the High Priest of Beiki, several great lineages successively met with mishaps. The 9th son of the Mo clan was the most important one among them. It seemed like a coincidence, but in reality, someone was adding fuel to the fire behind the scenes. This person is undoubtedly the saint of your sect. Since the Tower Master has seen through it, I won't hide anything. The Devil Palace has indeed cleared some obstacles with the help of this person. This person's strength and fate are different from ordinary people. When the High Priest of Beiki was killed, and the 9th son of the Mo clan reappeared, the saint began to push the Devil Palace's grand plan to rise again. Moonweaver put down her tea and said calmly, however, the Devil Palace didn't do much. We only helped this person when he needed to improve his strength. The wise ones add fuel to the fire. The wise ones add fuel to the fire. The Dawn Moon Tower Master said slowly. The saint of your sect is a great talent. I am ashamed of my inferiority. Tower Master, you are too modest. Moonweaver looked in front of her and said seriously. Tower Master, what do you think? As long as you agree, from today onwards, you will be the Devil Palace's guest elder. You will be second only to me and above everyone else. That sounds very tempting. The smile on the Dawn Moon Tower Master's face became clearer. The teacup in her right hand spun in circles, making it difficult for others to understand her thoughts. While the two were talking, the sun was setting in Fengming City on the White Emperor planet. A cold crescent moon rose. In the courtyard of the palace, a silhouette in plain clothes stood quietly. His white hair danced in the wind, looking very dazzling. Gradually, frost fell from the sky and fell on the courtyard. Under the moonlight, the origin sword appeared. The broken part of the sword that was sealed by frost was faintly visible. When the knowing destiny sword appeared, the pressure of the sword swept across the heavens and the earth. Although the sword was broken, it did not lose its spirituality. The sword of destiny was beyond ordinary heavenly weapons. The person and the sword breathed together. One's glory, one's glory, one's loss, one's loss. In the next moment, Ningchen held the sword and moved. Sword light filled the sky. Plain clothes, white hair, cold frost, broken sword. Learning swordsmanship for 100 years, going through 3 disasters and 5 tribulations. Severing emotions, turning into a demon, saving all living beings. Once he became an immortal, he was invincible. In front of the palace, a beautiful figure looked quietly in the direction of the courtyard. Her eyes were as calm as autumn water. After a moment, the phoenix cry was unsheathed. The sword moved, and the person followed. The 2 swords clashed. Frost danced in the air. The most beautiful confrontation of martial arts in the world. The person danced in the wind, the sword sang in the snow. Sound, sound, sound. Chapter 863. In the Moonlight Palace, the swords were humming in unison. The peerless swords were intertwined into a dazzling rainbow. The torrential undercurrent stole the light of heaven and earth. The endless sword pressure swept across. In the sky above the palace, frost was dancing. The sky was descending, and the world was covered in frost. Knowing destiny, knowing destiny. One was the original name, while the other was the original name. The sword hummed softly, and the heart of the sword was clear. Snowflakes and frost flowers drifted down silently and bloomed on the ground, stunning the world. Rivers of red for all generations. The sword reflected the rivers, and the red maple bloomed. The wind and clouds gathered on the phoenix cry sword, and the law followed the words. The entire world was filled with a picturesque scene. Nothing Bai Yi stood still, and the sword spread out. Wherever the formless waves came, the world was still, and nothing appeared. The sword and tent intertwined, and the world was filled with ice and snow. The world was covered in silver. Lin Yuzhen kept her sword, and her beautiful eyes looked at the person in front of her. She smiled and said, "Admirable." In front, the wind and snow gradually subsided, and the sword and tent around Bai Yi's figure gradually retracted, returning to calmness. "Your Highness is too modest." Ning Chun waved his hand and kept his origin sword. He said calmly, "Your Highness is not good at swordsmanship. You only used half of your moves, but it doesn't mean that Your Highness is weaker than me. In the past, I might have had the confidence to win against Brother Ning. However, Brother Ning's strength is no longer the same as before. If a fourth realm doesn't appear, no one can defeat you," Lin Yuzhen said softly. "Fourth realm?" Ning Chun looked into the distance, and an undetectable brilliance flashed past his eyes. He said, "Your Highness, we might encounter an old monster of this level when we go to the Qilin Pavilion." Their trip this time was to completely destroy the Qilin Pavilion. Without a doubt, the Qilin Pavilion's foundation would be revealed. The true appearance of the ancient inheritance would truly appear in the world this time. "Brother Ning, if a fourth realm really appears, then retreat," Lin Yuzhen said seriously. "Your Highness, don't worry." Ning Chun nodded and said, "I won't act rashly. However, this trip is not only to give Your Highness an explanation, but also a warning to the Devil Palace." "What do you mean?" Lin Yuzhen didn't understand. "Those who are closely involved cannot see clearly. Your Highness, have you not noticed that we have been helping the Devil Palace eliminate their opponents these days?" Ning Chun said calmly. Lin Yuzhen was startled. A moment later, shock filled her face. If he hadn't reminded her, she wouldn't have noticed that their actions had indeed helped the Demon Palace greatly. "The conflict between us and the Qilin Pavilion is already irreconcilable. Since this is the case, then we will use absolute power to completely destroy it. As for the Devil Palace," speaking up to here, Ning Chen's expression gradually turned cold as he said, "I'm not interested in knowing its ambitions. If we can mind our own business, that would naturally be for the best. If we can't, then we'll have to see how much stronger it is compared to the Qilin Pavilion, which is also an ancient inheritance." Lin Yuzhen looked at the person in front of her, and a strange look flashed across her eyes. Perhaps she was overthinking. She felt that the current him was much more murderous than when they first met 100 years ago. "Your Highness, it's already late. You should rest early. We will leave tomorrow morning." Ning Chen's gaze shifted to the girl beside him as he spoke. Lin Yuzhen recovered and nodded gently. Brother Ning should also rest early. After speaking, Lin Yuzhen didn't stay any longer. She turned and walked out of the courtyard. After King Qi left, Ning Chen stopped in the courtyard for a moment before he walked back to his room. The candlelight was lit, illuminating the simple yet elegant room. On the table, a portrait scroll lay there quietly. 100 years had passed, but the rice paper was still as good as new. Ning Chen looked at the portrait on the table, and his expression became peaceful. A breeze blew past and the portrait unfolded. The woman in the portrait was dressed in a palace dress. Her face was extremely beautiful, making it hard for people to look away from her. "Exinu." Ning Chen reached out and gently held the portrait. His eyes were so gentle that it was hard to melt. 20 years of being together was engraved in his heart bit by bit. The candlelight flickered. Outside the room, the cold moon was moving westward. In the room, the white-haired figure in plain clothes stood quietly for the entire night. When the sky was about to brighten, he gently put away the portrait on the table and walked out. In front of the courtyard, King Qi was already waiting. He was dressed in royal attire, and his hair was tied up high. His handsome face was valiant and his dignity was not inferior to that of a man. The king of Baiki carried the entire dynasty on his shoulders. 200 years of wind and rain couldn't break the king's pride. "Let's go," Ning Chen said softly and walked out of the courtyard. Lin Yuzhen nodded and followed. Her figure was half a step behind. For the first time in her life, she was willing to fall behind someone. The heavenly ship appeared and the two of them boarded it. In the next moment, the heavenly ship broke through the sky and swept toward the distant starry sky. In the distant starry sky, white fog filled the air. Layers of formations crisscrossed. At the end of the white fog, one could vaguely see a great hall floating in the starry sky. The Qilin Pavilion of Heaven was one of the oldest sects in the world. It had been passed down for tens of thousands of years, and could be said to be immortal. In the Qilin Temple, the master of the Qilin Pavilion sat high up in the hall. Below him, the first elder of the Qilin Pavilion, Lin Xiaohan, stood quietly. His powerful aura was close to the peak of the true realm. How is it? Has the Ji family not replied yet? The master of the Qilin Pavilion asked. No. Lin Xiaohan shook his head and said. The master of the Ji family said to give him a few days to consider. The master of the Qilin Pavilion frowned slightly and said, What is this old fox thinking? He actually still wants to consider such a matter that has nothing to lose. King Qi is on good terms with the ninth son of the Mo clan, and the ninth son of the Mo clan is also indebted to the Ji family's daughter. Will the master of the Ji family hesitate because of this? Lin Xiaohan asked. He won't. The master of the Qilin Pavilion shook his head and said, If Ji Yuechu is such a person who can't distinguish between public and private matters, then he wouldn't be able to become the master of the Ji family. No matter what kind of debt the ninth son of the Mo clan has for the Ji family, in front of the benefits of the family, these things are meaningless. Lin Xiaohan nodded. Just as he was about to say something, his expression suddenly changed. In the world, a loud rumble resounded. The entire Qilin Pavilion shook violently. Formation runes automatically awakened and endured the aftermath. Who is it? The master of the Qilin Pavilion immediately stood up and took a step forward, arriving in front of the sacred hall. In the starry sky, in front of the azure ship, a white-clothed figure stood upright. The star soul in her hand shone brightly, guiding the stars in the sky. A majestic sword aura slashed directly at the sect-protecting Grand Array. The rumble resounded through the starry sky. After 3 slashes, the sect-protecting Grand Array couldn't endure anymore and collapsed. Impudent. In the midst of a furious roar, the wind and clouds in the starry sky moved. A huge hand slapped down, pressing towards the white-clothed figure standing upright in the starry sky. Ningchen swung his sword. Starlight lingered around it. A sword broke the sky, and the huge hand that gathered wind and clouds collapsed. Your Highness, let's go. Ningchen spoke softly and walked forward step by step. On the azure ship behind, Lin Yuzhen took a step forward and followed behind. In the sky above the Qilin Pavilion, 2 figures gradually descended. The white-clothed figure in the lead no longer concealed her aura. An abnormally valiant aura spread out, and heaven and earth sensed it. Heavy snow fell from the sky, turning the entire Qilin Pavilion into a world of ice and snow. From today onwards, the Qilin Pavilion will no longer exist in this world. The moment the foot landed, extreme might swept across the land. The earth couldn't withstand the mighty force and collapsed with a loud bang. The white-clothed figure's eyes turned cold. Her star soul hummed softly, and starlight fell from the 9 heavens. In an instant, a terrifying sword pressure swept out from the star soul sword, causing thousands of heavy waves. Capture them, regardless of life or death. In front of the Qilin Sacred Hall, the master of the Qilin Pavilion ordered in a deep voice. Yes. In the 4 corners of the Sacred Hall, in the various palaces, the venerables received the order. Streams of flowing light sped out, charging towards the battle ahead. Your Highness, it has begun. As his voice fell, Ningchen moved. The star soul sword that was as bright as blood swept past. The yellow springs opened the path, and life or death was up to fate. Kill. The soldiers surged like waves in the sky. In the blink of an eye, blood spilled everywhere. The star soul sword changed the weather, and hell opened the door to welcome people. The knowing destiny who started the massacre had eyes as deep as the abyss, and there was no trace of worldly emotions. People in the Jianghu were never free to do as they wished. Broken limbs and broken arms flew in the air amidst the mournful sounds. The venerables whose names shook the region were originally powerful, but in front of the knowing destiny who walked out from the Yellow Springs, they seemed so insignificant. They were so insignificant that they couldn't even control their own lives. Dong dong dong. The war drums sounded, and the heavenly soldiers came out. In the sky above the Qilin pavilion, experts wearing divine armors appeared one after another. Every one of them was in the Xiantian full-circle realm. There were hundreds and thousands of them, and they covered the sky, shocking everyone. Ningchen raised his head and looked at the heavenly soldiers that surrounded him. His expression didn't change. His left hand grasped the air, and the remembrance blade appeared. The long and narrow snow-white blade was so bright in the sky filled with snow. With one step, his body was like the void. His plain clothes fluttered, and the blade broke through the divine armors. Blood spurted out, and broken bodies fell from the sky, crashing onto the ground. The divine armors that weren't afraid of blades and swords were tempered thousands of times. But now, they were like thin paper that couldn't withstand a single blow. The remembrance blade cut off all emotions and thoughts. The blade passed by, and the eyes were filled with cold white light. Ah! Miserable cries came to an abrupt end. The plain clothes were like shooting stars, and the blade light was austere. It was so fast that it was frightening, and so cold that it made people shiver. Outside the battle, Prince Qi, who saw this side of the former for the first time, couldn't help but be shocked. Xiaohan. In front of the Qilin sacred hall, the Qilin pavilion master said in a deep voice, "All of you go." Yes. Lin Xiaohan respectfully accepted the order. Behind him, figures appeared one after another. 7 true realm experts, the Qilin 7 grand elders, all moved out. Outside the battle, Lin Yuzhen saw the situation and stepped out. She unsheathed the phoenix cry and slashed towards the 7 people. "Your Highness Prince Qi, your opponent is me." As she spoke, the Qilin pavilion master stepped forward and blocked the phoenix cry sword with a flip of his palm. The moment Prince Qi was blocked, the Qilin 7 grand elders surrounded him. Their blades and halberds filled the sky with killing intent. The Qilin pavilion master is really confident. Lin Yuzhen looked at the person before her and said calmly, "It's enough to deal with you." The Qilin pavilion master said indifferently, "You're wrong. What I meant was, how could the pavilion master think that a mere 7 grand elders could stop him now?" Lin Yuzhen looked at the battle not far away and sneered. As soon as she finished speaking, the wind and snow danced in the sky. In the wind and snow, the plain-clothed figure raised 2 blades. Her star soul and grand beginning light soared into the sky, and her peerless foundation was activated. How can this be? Before they could recover from their shock, the plain-clothed figure flashed by. Her 2 swords slashed down, and the wind and snow split open the sky. A Qilin Grand Elder used his halberd to block the sword, but there was an earth-shattering tremor. The halberd broke, and blood poured into the sky. Chapter 864. In the sky above Qilin Pavilion, a battle broke out in the wind and snow. The Star Soul and Taisher's swords slashed down, breaking the sky. In the splattering blood, a Qilin Grand Supreme was cut in half by the 2 swords. A terrifying waterfall of blood gushed into the sky. The shocking scene made countless experts in the Qilin Pavilion shudder. Their bodies couldn't help but tremble. "Don't be careless. Kill." The head of the Grand Supreme, Lin Xiaohan, suppressed the shock in his heart. He turned his palm and condensed energy. Wind and clouds gathered and the water rippled, turning into a huge waterfall that fell from the sky. Ningchen moved. The Taisher in his left hand went against the sky, and the sword light broke through the waterfall. At the same time, the Star Soul in his right hand shone brightly. He activated his Supreme Foundation, and faced the other 5 Grand Supreme. There was a loud rumble and the wind blew. The waterfall in the sky instantly froze. Streaks of ice turned into swords and flew towards everyone. Lin Xiaohan and the other 5 Grand Supreme immediately moved and dodged the streaks of ice sword light. The 6 of them separated. In the battle, a cold smile flashed across Ning Chen's face. He took a step forward and disappeared instantly. Taisher's snow covered 1,000 miles. The Qilin 3rd Grand Supreme blocked the attack. The cold sword chi entered his body and he instantly felt his breathing stagnant. Ning Chen's figure flashed and appeared behind the former in an instant. He slashed with his Star Soul and starlight spread out. The Qilin 3rd Grand Supreme immediately turned around to block. However, he didn't have enough energy and his attack was weak. He groaned and took a few steps back. When the rest of the Grand Supreme saw the situation, their expressions changed, and they quickly went up to help. Break the sky. Ningchen swung his sword and broke the sky. A terrifying crack appeared and temporarily blocked the path of the 5 Grand Supreme. In the blink of an eye, Bai Yi flashed past and the brilliance of the 2 swords intersected. Silver and blood soared into the sky and slashed down with unparalleled power. Not good. Not far away, the Qilin Pavilion Master glanced at the battle in front of him. He pushed away the king in front of him with a palm and rushed out. Ningchen sensed it and a cold smile appeared on his face. He disappeared in an instant and reappeared. The sword light changed direction. The Qilin Pavilion Master took half a step back as his palms collided with the 2 swords. His face revealed shock. Impossible. How could he have such a foundation? In the moment of shock, the sword light penetrated his body. A figure in red appeared in the battle, and the white rainbow in his hand pierced the Qilin Pavilion Master's heart, bringing out a waterfall of dazzling snowflakes. Pavilion Master. The 6 Grand Supremes were all shocked as they cried out involuntarily. Pavilion Master, I've been waiting for you to make a mistake. Otherwise, with Pavilion Master's strength, it would take a lot of effort to kill you. Ningchen looked at the Qilin Pavilion Master before him and said softly, "Cough cough." His heart meridians were pierced, and fresh blood continuously flowed out from the mouth of the Qilin Pavilion Master. He turned his head back with difficulty and said, "One body dual transformation. 9th son of Mo Gate, I still underestimated you. Pavilion Master, don't be anxious. Soon, I will make the entire Qilin Pavilion accompany you in death." With a soft voice, the sword chi of the white rainbow sword in the phoenix body's hand erupted, instantly destroying the martial bone of the former. The figure that fell from the sky crashed into the ground with a loud thud. Dust and sand flew everywhere, and buried his body. Ningchen turned around and looked at the 6 Grand Elders of Qilin who were rushing over. The coldness in his eyes did not diminish. His body flashed past, his sword moved with him, and his will moved with the sword. Sword light crisscrossed, one after another. In the Qilin Pavilion, the ground rumbled and shook. The hidden foundation could no longer be concealed at this moment, and was revealed. Dim light covered the stars in the sky. In the dim light, old men in ancient clothes appeared one after another. They had a strong aura, and every one of them was not below the peak of true realm. "Your Highness, you should retreat for the time being," Ningchen reminded her through telepathy. The sky was filled with red light, and immortal trapping appeared and entered the ground. Lin Yuzhen heard and took a step forward, quickly retreating from the battle. In the battle, immortal trapping entered the ground. Below the Qilin Pavilion, the ground shook and the mountain shook. The Earth Chi spiritual vein was constantly being devoured by the immortal sword, and the foundation was severely unstable. "Open!" Ningchen shouted. In an instant, immortal trapping sword moved, yellow spring opened, and the time of heaven and earth flowed rapidly. Time of yellow spring, time seal and God seal. Everyone's life source was rapidly flowing away, being devoured by time. The life fire of the 5 old men in ancient clothes suddenly became weak. Their remaining lifespan dissipated in the passage of time, and their terrifying cultivation base could not be maintained. Their withered bodies quickly dispersed. After preparing for a long time, Ningchen did not allow for any changes. In the space sealed by yellow spring, Ningchen's figure rushed out quickly. Sword light flashed through the gaps, and frost filled the sky. Rumbling sounds could be heard. The 5 old men in ancient clothes who had surpassed the peak of true realm received the attack. Every move was powerful and peerless. However, their chi and blood were dried up, and their bodies were devoured by time. They had lost their advantage, and under the fierce attack, they were injured. In the void, 6 Qilin Grand Elders rushed down and attacked the plain-clothed young man below. Prairie fire. The phoenix flew past, and immortal slaying sword appeared. The power of the immortal sword activated the power of the phoenix fire, and a sword reflected the sun, burning the world. Retreat. The killing intent on Lin Xiaohan's face became denser. He raised his palms to the sky, and a terrifying waterfall surged, swallowing the phoenix fire. Water and fire clashed and white mist rose. The battle immediately became invisible. Boom. In the white mist, Ning Chun and the 5 Grand Elders faced each other. Their palms and swords collided, and their foundation and cultivation base directly clashed. Their true chi shook, and the aftermath was earth-shattering. Peak cultivation base and peerless foundation clashed, and heaven and earth sank. In the battle, the wind and snow rolled like waves, and the void was frozen. Below, the 5 old men in ancient clothes similarly pressed forward. Their vast and vigorous energy was as heavy as a mountain. Reincarnation calamity. At the moment of crisis, the demonic aura surged, and the 300-meter-tall demonic body appeared. The giant fist smashed down, and the reincarnation calamity appeared. Strong, and tyrannical beyond compare. The 5 old men in ancient clothes had their path blocked, and the battle was in a deadlock. It was an unbelievable battle situation. 11 strong practitioners who were close to or beyond the peak of the true realm, and the 3 bodies of the knowing destiny realm all attacked together, and with their strength alone, they forcefully shook the Qilin Grand Elders. Buzz. Just at this moment, from the depths of the Qilin Pavilion, a deep and serene mirror light shone. It was filled with the aura of death, and it made people shudder. Yin-Yang Mirror. Ning Chen's 3 bodies simultaneously teleported 100 meters away, avoiding the mirror light. He looked at the depths of the Qilin Pavilion, and the coldness in his eyes became more and more bone-chilling. I almost forgot, the Yin-Yang Mirror is also known as the Life and Death Mirror. Ning Chen looked at the depths of the Qilin Pavilion, and coldness flashed across his eyes. He said, "Pavilion Master, I have to say that you are really lucky. You flatter me." Yin and Yang soared into the sky, illuminating the world. Under the Yin-Yang Mirror, the Qilin Pavilion Master stood tall, and his aura was turbulent. It was impossible to tell that he had just suffered a fatal injury. In the sky, the 3 bodies stood side by side quietly. Their auras were completely different, but they were equally powerful. In the horizon, frost, flames, and demonic aura surged. A shocking vision was engraved in the world, and it rumbled for a long time. If I can kill you once, then I can kill you a second time. Pavilion Master. It seems like you have no choice but to endure the pain of life and death a second time. After saying that, the vision merged in the sky above the 3 bodies. Chaos appeared, and the scene of the beginning of the world reappeared in the world. The absolute beginning martial arts demonstration, the pinnacle of the way of the sword. Man, God, and devil, the 3 bodies breathed at the same time, and the 3 swords filled the sky. Sword art Tai. The 3 swords slashed, and the sword light broke through the sky. In an instant they merged into one. The Qilin Pavilion Master's expression turned serious, and he activated the divine artifact. The Yin-Yang Mirror shone brightly, and it blocked the sword light. Tai appeared when Tao reached its pinnacle. The sword light broke through the chaos, and its shocking power destroyed everything in its path, and it directly crashed into the Yin-Yang divine artifact. With a rumble, the sword light and the divine artifact collided, and the undercurrent trembled. In the phoenix fire, a red-clothed figure walked out of the divine restriction, and Zhu Xian broke through the sky and slashed at the Yin-Yang Mirror. Demonic Fire Prairie. In the divine restriction, the demonic body waved its sword, and black demonic flames rose, supporting the phoenix body, and it slashed at the Yin-Yang Mirror again. The 3 bodies joined forces, and their powerful power continuously attacked the divine mirror. Behind the Yin-Yang Mirror, the Qilin Pavilion Master's mouth was dyed red again. Although he had a divine artifact protecting him, he still suffered from the aftershock. In the divine restriction, the 5 elders in ancient clothes rushed forward again, and their powerful power covered the sky and blasted at the 2 bodies in front of them. Ning Chun stepped forward, and his astral soul and Taisher merged. Extreme power reflected the stars, and ice and snow sealed the world. 2 swords against 5 and waves shook. Behind them, Lin Xiaohan and the 5 Grand Supremes rushed forward again, and their divine artifacts slashed with murderous intent. Black light flashed past, and demonic waves surged. The bloody light on Crimson Drill soared into the sky, and it slashed down. It rumbled, and the aftershock whistled. In the divine restriction, the light was dazzling, and time passed, swallowing everyone's life force. A dim light rose around the 5 elders in ancient clothes. Time was merciless, and it kept swallowing the 5 people's lives that had long dried up. Time was up, and it was difficult to move forward. The 5 ancestors of the Qilin Pavilion looked at the Qilin Pavilion one last time, and their weathered eyes flashed with sorrow. Farewell. The next moment, the 5 figures gradually dissipated, and in the time, they turned into stars and disappeared between heaven and earth. The 5 Qilin ancestors died in battle, and the situation suddenly tilted. The fighting spirit of the 2 bodies soared, and the wind, snow, and demonic waves rolled. Their combat power was fully unleashed, and they were invincible. Lin Xiaohan and the other Grand Supremes were shocked, and they couldn't suppress the waves in their hearts. Buzz. Behind the Qilin temple, the yin-yang mirror shone again. An endless murderous intent shone on the battlefield. The 2 bodies focused, and they looked in the direction of the mirror's light. Their figures flashed, and they avoided the murderous intent again. They couldn't stay in this realm. After making up their minds, they stepped out of the battlefield, and in an instant, they were above the Qilin temple. Behind them, the 6 Grand Supremes wanted to follow, but suddenly, a red light rose, and the divine restriction blocked their way. Break it! Lin Xiaohan said in a low voice. The other 5 Grand Supremes nodded, gathered their vitality, and broke the divine restriction. In the sky above the Qilin temple, the 3 bodies gathered again, and they stood in the void, looking at the Qilin Pavilion Master, who had the yin-yang mirror above his head. Their murderous intent exploded, and the 3 lights illuminated the world. 1 body, 3 transformations, each of them 1 path. 9th son of the Mahis sect, you really hid your strength well. The Qilin Pavilion Master said in a low voice. Let's end this quickly. In the middle of the 3 bodies, the main body said indifferently. Snow waves rolled around him, and his peerless foundation completely erupted. The phoenix and demon bodies nodded, and the phoenix fire and demonic vitality rolled with shocking power. In an instant, heaven and earth were split into 4, each occupying a side. Seeing that the aura of the 3 bodies in front of him was getting stronger, the Qilin Pavilion Master didn't dare to delay any longer. With a low shout, he poured all of his cultivation into the divine mirror, and the extreme power fell, pressing down on the 3 bodies. With the extreme power, the main body stepped into the air, and the wind and snow encircled the 2 swords. Starlight shone in the world, and the sword was at its peak, unparalleled in the world. Rumble, an earth-shattering collision sound rang out. Behind the main body, a vision evolved. Heaven, earth, void, and life. The 4 heavenly books manifested their divine power, blocking the yin-yang divine power. Sword technique. At this moment, the phoenix body flashed past, and the celestial slaying sword broke through the air, and 10,000 swords gathered. A formless sword. With a boom, the celestial slaying sword collided with the divine weapon, and with extreme speed, the sword broke yin and yang. Chapter 865. The situation in the Qilin battle changed again. The tongue snake appeared, Prince Qi returned to his original appearance, and he defeated 6 of them alone. Lin Yuzhen didn't have time to check on her injuries. She rushed to the other side of the battle. The Qilin Patriarch squinted his eyes and looked at the girl. He pointed with his right finger and the wind and cloud swirled. Lin Yuzhen frowned and blocked the attack with her sword. She took a few steps back and blood flowed from her arm. Ningchen came forward and held Prince Qi's arm with his right hand. Boundless vitality flowed into Prince Qi's arm and suppressed his injuries. Your Highness, be careful. This person's strength is different from any opponent we've met before. Ningchen reminded as he shifted his gaze to the old man not far away. Lin Yuzhen nodded and looked serious. The attack just now seemed to be done casually, but it had such terrifying power. The 4th realm was not something ordinary people could measure. The Qilin Patriarch stepped forward. With every step, the void under his feet shook violently. He was an existence that surpassed the limits of heaven and earth. He existed in the world and transcended the mortal world. Time flowed continuously in the void sealed by the divine restriction. However, the invincible time restriction seemed to have lost its effect at this moment. The precepts were blocked by the power of the 4th realm. Step by step, he stepped on their hearts. Ning Chun and Lin Yuzhen felt a pressure in their hearts. Their bodies felt like they were being pressed down by thousands of tons, and they couldn't move. The heavens and earth were under orders. Every move of the heavens and earth commanded the heavens and earth. The legendary realm above the celestial treading realm was beyond the reach of humans. The two strongest people in the world couldn't even move at this moment. The ultimate sword realm. The Kylan patriarch looked at the young man on the left and said lightly. He then looked at the girl on the right and said indifferently, half a step to the fourth realm. You two are not bad. I've heard this too many times. It's useless to say more. Again. With a shout, Ning Chun released the power of the void scroll in his body. 3 scrolls were activated, and the sky was full of strange light. The surroundings of the two turned into nothingness, and the heavens couldn't get close. Heavenly book? The Kylan patriarch frowned slightly. How many heavenly books does this guy have? Lightning. He raised his hand and lightning fell from the sky, drowning the two people in front of him. Seeing this, Lin Yuzhen turned her sword and condensed her vitality. The tongue snake around her flapped its wings, and black water filled the air as it soared into the sky. Love when it's almost snowing, snow in July. Beneath the black water, Ning Chun waved Genesis Supreme in his hand, causing endless cold energy to spread out. Snowflakes drifted down, turning the water into ice. The black water condensed and blocked the heavenly lightning. With a violent shattering sound, the black ice dissipated and the lightning fell again. Indestructible protection. The demonic body manifested, and the 300-meter demonic body blocked in front of the two. The royal heavenly demonic secret technique blocked the heavenly lightning. With a honglong sound, the lightning broke through the demonic defense. The demonic body's mouth overflowed with blood, and the skin on its back cracked inch by inch. Sword art Dragon Phoenix Burial. Not far away, the instant the demon body blocked the attack, the phoenix body attacked again. The dragon and phoenix coiled around each other, borrowing each other's strength to rush out. His swordsmanship is excellent, but it's a pity that his strength is too weak. The Kylan patriarch raised his hand and clenched his fist. The sword chi of dragon and phoenix shattered with a loud bang, and the remaining energy shook the surroundings. The Kylan patriarch struck out his palm again, and slapped toward the former. The phoenix body flashed past and avoided the palm energy. Then its figure turned back, moving so fast that it was hard to see. In the blink of an eye, 100 moves were exchanged. The sword light flashed rapidly under the night sky, intertwining with the dazzling aura of the sword. The sound of the palm and the sword clashing rang out. After 100 moves, it would be difficult for the immortal slayer to pass the heavenly barrier. Outside the battle, Ning Chun activated the power of the undying divine tree in his body, and infused it into the demonic body to help suppress its injuries. Suddenly, a muffled groan sounded in the battle. The phoenix body flew dozens of feet away, blood splattering everywhere, dyeing the night sky red. Even 100 plans would have a flaw. With one careless move, the palm energy couldn't dodge in time and brushed past the phoenix body, severely injuring it. With such a clear difference in cultivation, even if the phoenix body had extreme speed, it still couldn't go against the might of the heavens. Wind and clouds swirled around the Kylan patriarch. Little gourd. Ning Chun's eyes narrowed as he spoke. Immortal elder. The spatial restriction on his shoulder dissipated, and a little gourd appeared. Go and help the phoenix body heal. Be careful. Ning Chun said softly. Yes. The little gourd accepted the order and quickly flew forward on the green vine gourd. Human-shaped immortal medicine? The heaven-mending pavilion's immortal vine has actually grown to this extent. After a short moment of surprise, the Kylan patriarch's eyes gradually became cold. The fact that the heaven-mending pavilion could let the immortal vine fall into the hands of this child meant that the old monster of the heaven-mending pavilion couldn't resist the reckoning of time, and had already passed away. It was really a pity. He originally thought that he could catch up with that old man this time, but now it seemed that there was no chance. This era really didn't belong to them anymore. With a light sigh, the Kylan patriarch suppressed the waves in his heart. He took a step forward, and his cultivation erupted. 10,000 li of the void suddenly collapsed. On the other side, Ning Chun and Lin Yuzhen's expressions both became serious. It's here. In a breath, the Qilin patriarch moved within the rolling clouds. Before they could react, his figure had already arrived. He raised his hand and slapped down. The wind and thunder of heaven and earth received the order to annihilate the two. The might of the heavens was vast and unparalleled. Ningchen calmed himself down, and 3 rays of light appeared around him. Nianqing appeared, and the sword danced together. Wind and snow covered the sky. Heaven ascends, earth descends, man dies. From the heavens to the earth, the clouds of sabers and swords intersected with each other. On the sword god performed his martial arts, and a sword soared through the sky, displaying the pinnacle of the Tao of Swords. Heaven's might and the pinnacle of the Tao of Swords collided. The sword light broke apart the wind and thunder, and the aftershock of the collision caused Bai Yi to retreat several steps. Her astral soul flew out of her hand, and her white hair was dyed red. Sword. 11. Taking a step forward, Ningchen stretched out his hand and grabbed the astral soul that flew out. The sword spun 11 times, and sword qi gushed out like rain. The Qilin patriarch moved again, dodging the sword qi. After a few steps, he raised his hand and forcefully countered with a palm strike. 10,000 devils devour the heavens. In an instant, the devil body appeared at the back of the battlefield. Numerous devil shadows appeared, blotting out the sky as they rushed forward. Useless move. The Qilin patriarch turned his head, and his palm strike was like a tidal wave. The wind and clouds of heaven and earth engulfed the 10,000 devils, not leaving a single one behind. Eternal banishment. The 10,000 devils dispersed. In the horizon, the devil body opened its palms and slammed them together, tearing apart the heavens and earth. The ultimate move of the royal clan appeared once more. Void burial, eternal banishment. The turbulent flow of time and space were destroyed. A terrifying devouring force came, forcefully swallowing the Qilin patriarch's body. Sensing the danger, the Qilin patriarch's eyes darkened. He let out a long shout and released his tyrannical cultivation to resist the devouring force of time and space. Your Highness! An opportunity appeared. Ningchen rushed out and shouted in a deep voice. Lin Yuzhen nodded. She stepped forward and entered the void. Around her, the soaring serpents roared. The black water was like a heavenly waterfall, falling into the turbulent flow of time and space. Extreme sky thunder beat. With a light shout, thunder rumbled. The extreme sky thunder beat appeared and flew into the black water. Seeing the two's actions, the Qilin patriarch's expression changed slightly. He turned his palm and the wind and clouds around him turned into black lotuses. The lotuses merged and protected him. Sword art, break space. Ningchen waved his sword. The sword light broke through the air and slashed on the extreme sky thunder bead. After a short moment of silence, an earth-shattering terror appeared. The extreme sky thunder bead suddenly shattered. Endless thunder energy erupted and spread wildly, turning the black water into a sea of thunder. In the next moment, the sea of thunder drowned the black lotuses. The aurora was so dazzling that it was difficult to look at it directly. The endless sea of thunder and the absolute defense collided with each other. Rumbling sounds were heard in the turbulent flow of time and space. The collapsed space spread again, reaching 1,000 miles away. After the extreme, the sea of thunder and the black lotuses dissipated. The Qilin patriarch's figure soared into the sky and escaped from the turbulent flow. However, this time he was not as calm as before. I respect you for your great contributions. However, to prevent future troubles, I must kill you. As soon as he finished speaking, 3 figures appeared in the sky. The life scroll was the foundation. The heaven, earth, void, and God scrolls were blazing. At the same time, the demon opened the sky and wept. The phoenix body was also the sun scroll. They were the first person to kill the Qilin in 10,000 years. With a loud bang, the muffled thunder broke through the sky. Millions of resentment filled the sky and covered the starry sky. The sky wept and sorrowful rain fell. Chapter 866. Above the Qilin temple, the battle of exterminating the pavilion became more and more intense. Endless flames of war spread, covering the sky and the sun. The red robe swept past, phoenix fire overflowing. In the flames, the immortal slaying sword broke through the starry night and crashed into the yin-yang divine mirror. Crack! After the consecutive collisions, the divine mirror could no longer withstand the might of the immortal weapon. A slight cracking sound rang out, and in the blink of an eye, cracks appeared on the surface of the mirror. They were so fine and so glaring. The two figures fell, and the 300 Zhang demonic body rose again. A fist smashed down. Boom. Blocking another powerful move, the demonic might shook. On the yin-yang divine mirror, cracks spread crisscrossing, covering the entire surface of the mirror. The Qilin Pavilion Master's expression changed. He turned his palm and slapped at the red figure. In the instant of danger, Bai swept over, her astral soul crossed, and her unparalleled foundation blocked the fatal palm. The aftermath whistled, and the wind and snow were in a frenzy. White frost spread on the Taisher sword, and the sword slashed at the throat. The Qilin Pavilion Master clenched his fist and punched at the sword that slashed at the throat. Azure Dragon Fall. The red robe flashed, and she raised her hand to grab the Qilin Pavilion Master's shoulder. The surrounding azure dragon coiled out, and the dragon roared, turning into a meteor that fell from the sky. Stars transformation. Below, the demonic body's hands formed 9 stars, and suddenly rose to the sky. Old ancestor, save me. At the moment of death, the Qilin Pavilion Master's expression changed. He used the yin-yang divine mirror to protect himself and anxiously shouted. Boom. The azure dragon falls star, and the divine mirror scattered the soul. With a violent vibration, the yin-yang divine mirror could no longer withstand the extreme power and collapsed. There was a muffled groan and blood sprayed. The Qilin Pavilion Master's skin cracked, and blood dyed his battle robe red. Coughing, he vomited a mouthful of blood, and staggered, unable to stand firm. The divine mirror was destroyed, and he no longer had anything to rely on. His life and death were no longer in his control. At this moment, the pressure between heaven and earth suddenly dropped, and a never-before-seen aura spread. The sky above the Qilin Pavilion was covered by dark clouds. Old ancestor. The Qilin Pavilion Master saw this and shouted with joy. No matter who comes today, no one will be able to save your life. Ning Chen's eyes chilled as he flashed forward. Genesis Supreme swung his sword at Ning Chen. How dare you? In the sky, an aged yet dignified voice rang out. In the surging wind and clouds, a giant palm pressed down, refusing the former. Is this kind of high and mighty attitude really so fascinating to you? Ning Chen coldly snorted, as he turned and slashed out with his sword. His astral soul collided with the gigantic palm, as the astral light from his astral soul intensified, blocking the gigantic palm. Blood spurted out as the sword light sealed the throat. Taisher's sword did not stop, and with a swing of his sword, the throat of the Qilin Pavilion Master was severed. Blood spurted out and dyed the dust red. Ah! His furious eyes were filled with unwillingness. Qilin Pavilion Master clutched his broken throat, but he was unable to stop the gushing blood. He retreated step by step and finally fell down powerlessly. His twitching body was so reluctant to leave. He was reluctant to leave the beautiful scenery of the world, reluctant to leave the power to control the fate of others. However, in the end he couldn't even change his own fate. In the sky, lightning spread, and an old man with the marks of time appeared. Looking at the figure in the pool of blood below, an undetectable murderous intent flashed in his aged eyes. Outside the battle, Lin Yuzhen was shocked when she saw the old man in the sky. This was the 4th realm. It was a completely different pressure. It was foreign and heavy, and one couldn't even feel that it was a human pressure. It was as if a part of the world was pressing down, and all living things were terrified. In front of the sacred hall, 3 figures stood. In the middle, Ning Chen waved his right hand, and the trapping celestial flew up from the divine restriction in the distance. Your Highness, please stop them for now, Ning Chen said. With the divine restriction broken, Lin Xiaohan and the other grand elders of the Qilin Pavilion were no longer bound. They looked over with killing intent. Lin Yuzhen's figure flashed, and she stood in front of the 6 people. She looked at the battle from the corner of her eyes with worry. Lin Yuzhen opened her mouth, but before she could finish, she was interrupted. "Your Highness, don't worry. I know what I'm doing," Ning Chun said. He clenched his right hand, and the trapping celestial was in his hand. He stabbed the sword into the ground, and red light filled the sky. In the sky, the Qilin Patriarch looked at the former's actions quietly. He looked calm, and he didn't do anything. The divine restriction was opened again, and the red light flowed, sealing the battle. The main body opened the restriction, and the phoenix demon on both sides condensed their qi, and the yin and yang formation opened. The black and red taiji formation rushed into the sky, circling above the divine restriction. Light fell, strengthening the divine restriction. "Are you ready?" The Qilin Patriarch looked at the three figures in front of him and asked. "Yes, I've kept you waiting," Ning Chun said calmly. His whole body was surrounded by cold air. Snowflakes fell silently from the sky. On both sides, the Phoenix Demon also activated their full power. Their vital essence surged, and they focused on the upcoming battle of life and death. "Heaven Waterfall," he said casually. In the sky, the Qilin Patriarch raised his right hand. Suddenly, at the top of the 9 heavens, the void cracked open, and a huge ravine appeared. The Milky Way fell, and it was shocking. The heavens and earth were shocked. The indescribable power of heaven and earth was far beyond the limits of human strength. The Milky Way rolled, and it was shocking. 1,000 Earth rotation. Ning Chen's eyes focused. He stomped his foot, and the earth rumbled. Huge stone pillars rushed into the sky one after another, turning into pillars that blocked the Milky Way falling from the sky. The two extremes collided, and in the earth-shattering tremor, the stone pillars couldn't withstand the power of heaven and collapsed. The Milky Way fell and swallowed the three figures. 3,000 miles of sword snow. One move wasn't enough, so he used another move. Taisher condensed frost in Ning Chen's hand, and with a slash of his sword, a huge wave of cold air spread, blocking the power of heaven. With a boom, the waves in front of the heaven waterfall were frozen, and it continued to spread. Behind, the waterfall continued to fall, fiercely attacking the frozen barrier. Boom. After a moment of stalemate, the waterfall broke the ice, and a huge wave came crashing down. Seeing this, the two figures of the Phoenix Demon joined hands, and used the power of the yin-yang formation. Red and black sword lights shot out, blocking the huge wave. The three attacks came one after another, and countless sword lights collapsed. The power of the huge wave finally reached its limit. Sword form space breaking. Between the two figures, Ning Chun waved Taisher again, and with a slash of his sword, the heaven waterfall split. In the sky, the Qilin Patriarch looked at the person below, and his calm eyes gradually became serious. "This kid is not bad. There's no need to test me. You can show me your true strength," Ning Chun said calmly. The Qilin Patriarch looked at the surrounding red light and said, "Time Yellow Spring, and immortal slaying and immortal trapping. To be able to use these powers at such a young age, you should be proud of your achievements. However, below the 4th realm, these powers are meaningless." With that, the Qilin Patriarch raised his right hand again. In an instant, thunder woke up, and the sky lost its color. Chapter 867. In the Kirin Temple, lightning fell from the sky. The endless and terrifying sea of lightning drowned everything within sight. The earth was destroyed and the sky cracked. It was shocking. The terrifying power that surpassed the power of man was shocking. The power of destruction spread endlessly, as if the end of the world had arrived. Below, Ning Chun looked up at the sky. The wind and snow on his sword surged. With a light shout, the wind and snow split open, and a violent power swept out. Heaven and earth chime, life and death defy fate. The two swords opened up, shaking heaven and earth. The astral soul and Taisher shone brightly, and the dazzling light illuminated the night. In an instant, the two swords turned into blazing meteors and soared into the sky. The power of the sword shook the heavenly thunder, and the power of man blocked the power of heaven. In the thunder, the two swords weaved through, cutting through layers of thunder. The light on the swords also weakened rapidly. Demonic form, blood flame. The demonic body shouted, and demonic waves rolled. The crimson drill sword shone brightly, and boundless blood-colored demonic flames rose, turning into a flame sword that cut through the 9 heavens. The 2 bodies moved, and the phoenix body stepped forward. In an instant, the fairy slayer broke through the sky, following the sword path that the 2 bodies opened and soared into the sky. The sword light chimed with the great Tao, and the phoenix awakened the mortal world. The path of the sword showed a shocking scene. The phoenix spread its wings, and the sword phoenix went against fate. Above the void, the Kirin patriarch saw this, and his eyes flashed. He raised his hand and moved the wind and clouds. A giant hand appeared and blocked the sword phoenix that soared into the sky. The sword phoenix shook the giant hand, and on the wings, the sword light surged and collided with the giant hand. After a moment of stalemate, the giant hand retreated a little. It was actually gradually pushed back by the power of the sword phoenix. Not bad. The Kirin patriarch snorted and clenched his right hand. In front of him, the giant hand also clenched. With a loud bang, countless sword light shattered and dissipated between heaven and earth. The aftershock spread, and the sword phoenix could not withstand it. It dissipated, and the red robe appeared. It retreated a few steps, and blood flowed on the fairy slayer sword. It was the first time it was injured. With one move, the difference between the 2 was obvious. The power of the 4th level was shocking, and the divine power was shocking. Below, Ningchen looked at the elder in the void, and his eyes became serious. He knew that the 4th level was very strong, but today, he knew that this level was not something that could be judged by human eyes. 9th disciple of Black Gate Sect, I've heard of your name many times. However, your legend ends today. The Kylin patriarch said indifferently. He flipped his left hand, and a gust of wind blew. In the wind, waves rolled. The combination of the 2 powers was even more powerful than before. Sword art, nothing. Ningchen took a step forward and entered the void. In the yin and yang matrix, the power of the demonic phoenix double body gathered. The 2 swords were yin and yang. 2 streaks of sword light intersected and collided with each other. The sword is not bad, and the formation is not bad as well. It's a pity that your cultivation does not allow you to fully unleash their power. The Kylin patriarch pressed down with his left hand. Suddenly, the heavenly waterfall of feng shui surged out, and wiped out everything in its path. The sword light dissipated silently without any ripples. A pool of blood splashed out, and Ningchen retreated several steps. He condensed his essence to block the heavenly might, but it was difficult for him to block the power of a 4th realm cultivator. He grunted, and his body was dyed red. On the other side, the phoenix silhouette stopped in its tracks and shot out in an instant. In the blink of an eye, it was already in front of the old man. Phoenix flames rose from the immortal slaying sword, and pierced towards the old man's chest. Too slow. The Kylin patriarch raised his hand and held the sword. His vital essence spread out and blocked the immortal slaying sword. Immediately, he slapped the phoenix silhouette with his palm. In such a short time, life and death were determined. The demonic might was overwhelming, and a 1,000 feet tall giant body appeared. The giant fist was red, and it protected the phoenix silhouette. The Kylin patriarch frowned. He changed the direction of his palm, and met the giant fist from the sky. There was a rumble, and the demonic blood dyed the sky. The unshakable might was strong, and even the royal heavenly demon physique was severely injured. One sword invisible. The situation was dangerous, but the phoenix silhouette did not retreat. The blood did not stop, and the sword did not stop. The immortal slaying sword spun rapidly and broke free from the former's restraint. It forcefully pierced into the Kylin patriarch's chest. The dazzling red color overflowed from the ancient clothing. A smear of red appeared in front of the Kylin patriarch's chest. The sword penetrated half an inch and could not go any further. Back off. With an angry roar, vital essence exploded. A huge impact spread out and the phoenix silhouette flew 1,000 feet away. Blood splattered and fell like rain. Not far away, Lin Yuzhen saw the scene and was shocked. Her eyes were full of worry. How is it? Do you regret it? Unfortunately, it's too late. Today both of you will die here. Lin Xiaohan, the leader of the 6 Kylin patriarchs, glanced at the battle on the other side and said coldly, Lin Yuzhen retracted her gaze and looked at the 6 people in front of her. She said in a deep voice, "It's still unknown who will live and who will die. Since I came here, how could I be unprepared?" After she finished speaking, Lin Yuzhen shouted softly. Green lightning filled the air around her. She released all of her skills. Her long hair flew backward, and the crown on her head shattered. She returned to her female form. She was no longer handsome. Instead, she had a perfect face that could topple countries. Her white skin emitted a bright brilliance under the night sky. How could I not have my own trump card to contend with the Ji family until now? With a cold voice, strange patterns appeared around Lin Yuzhen. The next moment, a huge phantom of a divine beast appeared. It was covered in scales and had a pair of wings on its back. It looked like a dragon but not a dragon. It looked like a flood dragon but not a flood dragon. This is the soaring snake. Seeing the powerful divine beast around Prince Qi, Lin Xiaohan was shocked and cried out involuntarily. On the other side of the battle, the Kailan patriarch sensed something. He looked over and frowned slightly. The power of the ancient divine beast, the soaring snake, had been obtained by a woman. With the appearance of the soaring snake, Lin Yuzhen's cultivation continued to rise. She surpassed the peak and advanced half a step. Her peerless face was cold, and the cold nature of the snake affected its host's mind. The wings spread, and the soaring snake phantom opened its huge mouth. Suddenly, the black water surged and became as heavy as a mountain. The Kailan patriarchs condensed their essence to block the attack, but they felt their bodies sink. They were suppressed by Prince Qi's power alone. Thunder. The black water surged. In front of them, Lin Yuzhen shouted softly. Lightning flashed around her body, and a phoenix cry pierced into the black water. The water assisted the lightning. With a grunt, the Kailan patriarchs flew out together. Lightning crisscrossed their bodies, and it was difficult to use their vital essence. Rivers red for all generations. In the blink of an eye, Lin Yuzhen condensed another ultimate move. In an instant, the mountains and rivers were picturesque, revealing the horizon. The heavenly form descends move, and the power of precepts poured into the sword. The phoenix cry shocked the world as it slashed down from the sky. The 6 Supremes' eyes trembled, and they hurriedly used their vital essence to block the attack. However, the lightning paralyzed their bodies, and it was difficult for them to gather their vital essence. Ugh! The red light of the sky-slashing sword split the 9 heavens in 2. The terrifying sword power split the world, and a waterfall of blood exploded. 3 Supremes exploded, and the other 3 fell from the sky and crashed onto the ground. Cough cough. After the extreme power, Lin Yuzhen's body staggered. She spat out a mouthful of blood that dyed the red dust red. She didn't want to fight for a long time. Even though she was victorious, her body still suffered quite a bit of backlash. Ningchen. Lin Yuzhen did not have time to check on her injuries. She quickly looked at the battle on the other side. Her figure flashed and she rushed over. Chapter 868. The Battle of the Kailan was coming to an end. Heavy rain fell from the sky and fogged up the night sky. Above the void, the heavenly book shone brilliantly. 6 scrolls appeared at the same time. It was a scene that had never been seen before. The sky opened and the earth appeared. The scene of the beginning of the world was extremely shocking. In the chaos, an aurora cut across the sky. It was the end of creation and destruction. God descended to the mortal world and looked down on the world. The stars circled around and transcended everything. Celestial God Dance, the first move of the divine scroll. It was developed again in the scene of creation. Its power was boundless and the power of destruction fell from the sky. Borrowing the power of God, Ningchen moved his hands in the void. In the snow, the stars fell. It was terrifying and destructive. Star-picking hand's final move, reverse formless. The crisis was approaching. The Kailan patriarch used his ultimate skill. Majestic airflow surged and formed a storm. In the storm, a giant hand held up the sky and grabbed the stars falling from the sky. Celestial Demon's 6 unique skills, star transformation. Under Heaven's tier, the demon body used the ultimate move. 9 big stars appeared between his hands. They changed endlessly and thousands of stars fell from the sky. 9 suns burning the sky. The phoenix body also catalyzed the appearance of the 9 suns. Divine flame raged and the sun fell from the sky. The 3 bodies worked together. The stars gathered into the 9 suns, and the demon flame burned the mortal world. The shocking power lit up the night sky and crashed into the star-picking hand. 4 realms of transcendence, and 6 scrolls of world-shaking. In the most terrifying collision, the raging waves spread rapidly. Heaven and earth collapsed. The indescribable aftershock spread continuously and destroyed the mountains. The scene of the end of the world shook. The palaces collapsed and sank into the ground. They became history. Ancient inheritances and immortal sects, along with the aftershocks of their moves, fell into oblivion, forever disappearing from this world. In the boundless fire, the 3 bodies were dyed red and flew out. After 100 steps, they stopped. Below, the Kylan Patriarch took half a step back. The aura around him shook violently. Sword style remnant red. Seeing that the Kylan Patriarch's aura was unstable, the phoenix body stepped forward. Her body was like a thunderbolt. The fairy-slaying sword was sharp and pierced toward the Kylan Patriarch's heart again. The Kylan Patriarch's face darkened. He gathered the energy in his palm and blocked in front of his body. The sword was like a remnant rainbow. It was extremely fast and sharp, piercing straight into the wind and clouds. Wind and clouds protected her body, making it difficult for the sword momentum to penetrate her. Behind her, demonic aura surged, and a demonic shadow swept over. The force of his palm penetrated into the phoenix's body, boosting the momentum of his attack. With the 2 of them working together, the immortal execution broke through the wind and clouds, advancing a few more centimeters. All of you are too weak. The Kylan Patriarch sneered as he gathered the essence in his palm. The waves surged and the wind howled. Your Excellency's cultivation is admirable. However, since I've come here, how could I be unprepared? At the back of the battlefield, Ning Chen took a step forward. His white hair danced in the air as he unleashed all of his techniques. Instantly, the wind and snow in the sky surged wildly. Time flowed between heaven and earth as the might of the divine prohibition was fully unleashed. The red light in the forbidden area filled the sky. At the same time, the red light in the Kylan Patriarch's chest shone brightly. The power of time that the immortal slayer had penetrated exploded and spread rapidly. The 4 realms were proud of the world, and the natural laws did not touch the body. However, the divine restriction power that entered the body was unstoppable. Once it erupted, there was a crazy backlash. In a moment of carelessness, the Kylan Patriarch staggered, and the vital core that he had gathered dissipated immediately. Time consumed his body and the wind and clouds in front of him shook. It could no longer stop the divine sword. The phoenix's body stepped forward, and the immortal slayer in her hand penetrated the Kylan Patriarch's chest. The Kylan Patriarch groaned and took a few steps back. Blood flowed from his chest and dyed his clothes red. No wonder you were willing to injure me at all costs. So he. A pool of blood splashed and dyed the sky red. The Kylan Patriarch looked up to the sky and laughed crazily. Then he shouted angrily and turned his palm to counterattack. The phoenix's left arm crossed to block the angry palm. With a violent tremor, the phoenix's body flew a few 100 feet away. In the scattered starlight, the left arm fell powerlessly and the martial bones were all broken. Sacred blood battle suit. Seeing the starlight scattered around the phoenix's body, the Kylan Patriarch's eyes darkened. No, it was not a complete battle suit. There was only an arm guard, and it was already broken. A few 100 feet away, the phoenix's body vomited a mouthful of red blood and staggered. With the help of the arm guard, she barely blocked the fatal palm. On her shoulder, the small gourd shone brightly and did its best to heal her injuries. The cold night was bleak, and the battle had reached the final stage. In the void, the Kylan Patriarch suppressed his injuries. His heart meridians were all broken, but he still did not fall. His heart meridians were destroyed, but he didn't die. The 4th realm is really hard to understand. After a short pause, the 3 figures stepped forward and stood in the void. They looked at the old man in front of them and said coldly, There are still many things you can't imagine. The ninth son of the Mahis sect. I will make sure you die a horrible death today. The Chilean patriarch's face flashed ferociously. His vital essence kept flowing in his heart and mouth to protect his body that was severely injured by a mortal slayer. That depends on whether you have the ability or not. Ningchen replied coldly. The three figures moved again. His sword was like a startled swan that broke the polar night. The violent sword and cold eyes were dazzling in the night. The Chilean patriarch raised his hand to block the attack. However, with the suppression of resentment and the erosion of time, his broken body was extremely weak. The three figures fought against the four realms. The sword light crisscrossed, leaving no gap and no chance of survival. Star-picking hand. The situation was reversed. The Chilean patriarch's face darkened. He raised his hand to gather vital essence and shook the stars. Not allowing the battle to change again, Lin Yuzhen stepped into the battle from the outside. The soaring serpent's phantom roared to the sky and gathered all her power. The phoenix's cry shone as it resisted the star-picking hand. With a groan, blood was stained. The star-picking hand was unshakable. The soaring serpent dispersed and Prince Chi's body flew out. Your Highness. Ningchen was shocked. However, there was no time to lose. Taishi's sword turned and the snow wave soared to the sky. 3,000 miles of sword snow. The sword shone and the sword snow danced. It was a flash of white light. The white hair was dazzling and the sword light was extremely bright. The Chilean patriarch raised his palm again to block the sword light. However, his vital essence was not condensed enough and his move was weaker. With a boom, the sword snow broke through the sky. The aftermath roared and the two figures retreated at the same time. In the blink of an eye, the phoenix figure appeared again. With absolute speed and sword power, the immortal slayer pierced the sky and penetrated the old man's chest again. Impudent. The sword tip entered the body and the pain consumed him. The Chilean patriarch turned his palm and struck out. Wind and thunder surged. Samsara calamity. At the critical moment, the demon body rushed over. Samsara appeared on his sword and blocked the power of wind and thunder. In the violent collision, the two figures flew out several feet. Although they were in a sorry state, they retained their combat power. In the tragic battle, there were many schemes and multiple suppressions. However, the power of a fourth realm cultivator was still terrifying. For the first time, the power of the divine prohibition of time did not achieve the expected effect. Drops of blood fell from the sky. At this point in the battle, both sides were dyed red. There should have been no suspense in the battle, but at this moment, the outcome was unpredictable. You guys seal his movements. Give me a breath's time. On the left side of the three figures, the phoenix body said in a low voice. Okay. Ningchen and the demon body responded and rushed out to trap the enemy together. Outside the battle, the phoenix body held his sword horizontally. His sword will rose to the extreme. In the next moment, the sword aura between heaven and earth rapidly gathered without beginning or end. 6 paths fall together, myriad demonic calamities, Taisheng forbidden sword. As soon as he stepped out, thousands of swords soared into the sky. His red robe soared into the sky. The immortal slayer spun and the sword flow surged, shining brilliantly. Doomsday catastrophe. With a light shout, thousands of swords broke through the sky. The shocking scene drowned the battle in an instant. The sword flow surged endlessly. The Chilean patriarch's pupils shrank. He turned his palm and held up the sky, blocking the thousands of swords. After a moment, rumbling sounds were heard. The forbidden sword shook the world. The fourth realm was even more immeasurable. The thousands of swords were shattered. Suddenly, blood spurted out and dyed the night sky red. At the end of the thousands of swords, the immortal slayer appeared. It cut off an arm and took the initiative. 4 scrolls at the same time, lifeless heaven and earth. The opportunity reappeared. Ningchen's figure rushed forward. His 2 swords circled around. There was a loud rumble. The snow waves were vast and mighty. In a short time, the killing palm was majestic. It destroyed the sky and split the peak. They fought with their foundation and their lives. The 4 scrolls rotated endlessly and dissipated the invisible force. In a short time, they were able to support the knowing destiny state, and did not retreat half a step. There was a loud rumble. Fists and palms landed on the body. Blood splattered and dyed the snow-white snow-red. It was the most direct confrontation. Life and death were at stake. Neither of them showed mercy. They did not gather chi and fought with force. In a few moves, heavy punches landed on the body. The power of the nine heavens star-picking hand is invincible. Ignoring the injury, the Kylan Patriarch threw out a heavy punch. The Kylan Patriarch looked crazy. His chi pierced the sky and his killing intent exceeded the limit. Ningchen moved again, and avoided the heavy punch. He threw a punch and landed on the Patriarch's chest. The punch penetrated the body and blood splattered. The Kylan Patriarch did not retreat. He raised his hand to grab Ningchen's arm. Thunder surged and wanted to break his arm. You only have one arm left. 1 for 1. It's worth it. Ningchen snorted. He did not dodge. His heavy punch condensed chi and hit the Patriarch's left shoulder. There was a loud rumble. The two figures retreated at the same time. Their arms hung down, and their clothes were stained with blood. Star Spirit! Ningchen shouted. The sword light flew back. The moment he held it, Ningchen's figure flashed again. He only had one hand and one sword. His killing intent did not decrease. The Kylan Patriarch's figure retreated. However, both his arms were broken. The situation was dangerous. Star-picking hand, scorching sun. Taking a step forward, the Kylan Patriarch condensed his origin energy into a palm. Wind and clouds gathered and blasted towards the person in front of him. Ningchen brandished his sword. With a loud bang, he was sent flying several feet away. His astral soul left his hand and fell to the ground. Popo's blood stained his arm. Two figures appeared from the side and looked at the old man in front of them. In an instant they dashed out again. The pinnacle of speed and the supreme of strength. Together with the Phoenix Demon, their swords were merciless and deadly. The situation was critical. The Kylan Patriarch's expression turned gloomy. His figure flashed, and the wind and thunder surged. Outside the battlefield, Ningchen stood quietly. His left hand clenched into a fist, and the trapping immortal slowly flew up from the ground. Earth chi lingered around it, and a terrifying aura of time circulated. Among the 4 great immortal swords, the one with the least killing intent was also the one with the most blood. Exterminating immortal sharp, slaughtering immortal death, trapping immortal red light everywhere, exterminating immortal infinite transformations, staining immortal robes with the blood of divine immortals of the grand firmament, for different swords with different effects. In ancient times, their might had shaken the heavens, and now, they had slain Xie Wang. Sword. 12. The 12th sword appeared once again. Magnificent sword light coiled around the area. Under the night sky, the 7 colors of the sword flowed. Divine might shook the world. Learning the sword for 100 years, unrivaled in the world. The only knowing destiny Marquis in the world. Chapter 869. The final move of the Qilin battle was about to arrive. The 12th sword reappeared, and a magnificent sword light appeared. Suddenly, the sword pressure swept across the world, and the land in all directions disintegrated. No words could be spoken because words were already useless. The same sword move, but completely different sword intent. The sword was one, and different paths led to the same destination. The celestial trapping sword was in his hand, and the earth energy was activated. The entire Qilin pavilion shook, unable to withstand the sword that was about to be unleashed. In the battle, the Qilin ancestor's expression changed drastically. He shouted, and the wind and thunder around him exploded, blasting the two away. He immediately retreated, wanting to leave the battle. However, the sword intent had already appeared, and it was too late to retreat. The white-haired figure swept past, and in the blink of an eye, the celestial trapping sword broke through the void, and the sword light slashed open the polar night. He suddenly turned around, but his head was separated from his body. The Qilin ancestor's head flew high, and blood spurted into the sky, adding a red color to the cold night. In the sky, the Tai Chi formation rotated rapidly, and black and red light scattered, trapping the Qilin ancestor's body to prevent any changes from happening. Is it over? The phoenix demon's figure swept over, and the demon body looked at the Qilin ancestor who was separated from his body. It's not clear yet, don't be careless. Ning Chen's eyes flashed and he said. As soon as he finished speaking, blood flowed in reverse under the Tai Chi formation. After a moment, the Qilin ancestor's body suddenly exploded, and a terrifying impact roared out, instantly destroying the Yin and Yang Great Formation. Seeing this, the three figures quickly retreated, avoiding the aftermath of the impact. In front of them, in the billowing waves of dust, an illusory figure appeared. He had a middle-aged face, and his soul power was transformed into clothes. His strong aura was so oppressive that it was difficult to breathe. As expected, he won't die so easily. In the middle of the three figures, Ning Chen's eyes turned cold. Such a powerful soul power had even surpassed the 49 leaders of the Dao sects. The terror of the fourth realm was indeed well-deserved. Can you still fight? Ning Chen asked. Endless fighting spirit. The demon body took a step forward, and the demonic aura around him surged. Yes. The phoenix body also stepped forward and nodded. Since we promised Prince Qi to destroy the Qilin Pavilion, we can't go back on our words. The situation is unclear now, be careful. Ning Chen looked at the illusory figure in front of him. Understood. The phoenix body said calmly. Dragging the battle out won't do us any good. I'll make the first move to test the waters. The demon body said coldly. His figure dashed out. The crimson drill sword was suffused with blood-red light, and a baleful aura flourished. With a swing of the sword, demonic waves surged. The capabilities of the fourth realm are beyond your imagination. The Qilin ancestor's eyes regained their coldness. He took a step forward and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the devil. He raised his hand and slammed it down on the devil's chest. The demonic chi scattered and the demonic body was sent flying. 1,000 feet away. It barely managed to stabilize itself. It spat out a mouthful of blood that stained the demonic sword. Ning Chen was shocked. A moment later, he forced himself to calm down and observe the changes in the battle. There was no doubt that the Qilin Patriarch's speed was much faster than before. However, it seemed that he was not completely unaffected after losing his physical body. At the very least, if that palm strike had been unleashed earlier, the devil body most likely wouldn't have been able to stand up. Overall, the Qilin Patriarch had become weaker. He was no longer at his peak. Beside him, the phoenix body also saw the change in the Qilin Patriarch. He took a step forward and moved out in a flash. The Qilin Patriarch moved at the same extreme speed. His palm surged and slammed toward the phoenix body. The phoenix body turned back and avoided the palm strike. The sword radiance was dazzling and slashed down from the sky. With a violent tremor, the Qilin Patriarch waved his hand to disperse the sword radiance. He turned his hand over and forcefully countered with a palm strike. The situation of the peak battle changed again. The battle of speed, the battle of reflexes, the surging sword radiance, and the surging palm strike constantly crossed between heaven and earth. Outside the battle, Ning Chen calmly watched the battle, waiting for an opportunity to appear. Not far away, the demonic body suppressed his heavy injuries and stepped forward, also waiting for an opportunity to make a move. Qi Lian's brilliance was not as bright as before. After a great battle, the three bodies were all damaged and were no longer at their peak. With the impact of the battle's aftermath, the divine restriction was almost destroyed. The power of the divine law was filled and constantly overflowed between heaven and earth. At this point in the battle, there was no longer any reservation. There was only a competition of absolute strength and no fear of death. In the battle, the Qilin Patriarch's body was glowing. Although his physical body was destroyed and only his soul was left, every move of his had the power to destroy heaven and earth. Facing the phoenix body with the fairy-slaying sword in hand, he was able to suppress her. "Help me." After watching the battle for a while, Ning Chen whispered softly. Immediately, the vital essence around his body rose and the fairy-trapping sword rotated. Seeing this, the demonic body condensed vital essence and gathered qi. The demonic body surged and supported the former. Celestial technique, waxing moons. The two joined forces and the demonic moon appeared out of thin air, binding the Qilin Patriarch's body. In an instant, the demonic moon collapsed and the Qilin Patriarch's soul was also torn apart. Ugh! With a painful groan, the celestial technique's power destroyed the divine soul. The Qilin Patriarch's figure staggered and showed a painful expression. Sky-shattering. In an instant, the phoenix body swept past and pierced the fairy-slaying moon toward the Qilin Patriarch. Back off. With a furious roar, the Qilin Patriarch's soul power erupted. The wind and clouds were ordered to disperse rapidly. With a loud bang, the phoenix body flew backward. After a dozen feet, it stabilized its body and turned back without caring about its injuries. The celestial might on the sword was dazzling. With the help of extreme speed, it crashed into the wind and clouds surrounding the Qilin Patriarch's soul. After a moment of stalemate, the celestial sword couldn't move half a step forward. At this moment, outside the battlefield, the Xian sound vibrated and penetrated the wind and clouds. The King of Hell played, judging life and death. The Xian sound roared and surged. The white tiger deity's weapon of slaughter appeared again. The Xian sound was not real, and the wind and clouds were difficult to block. The Xian sound passed through the Qilin Patriarch's body and severely injured his soul. With a step back, the Qilin Patriarch's soul shook. He had a splitting headache. Without the protection of his body, his weakness was exposed. Sword. The opportunity appeared again. The phoenix body swung the sword. Suddenly, with a groan, her body staggered. The injuries in her body broke out and attacked her body. Seeing this, the Qilin Patriarch forcibly condensed his vital essence and pressed his palm on the phoenix body. Suddenly, blood splattered all over the sky. Ningchen and the demonic body were shocked. They rushed forward and caught the phoenix body, who was severely injured. Not good. Seeing the phoenix body's injuries, Ningchen's eyes darkened. The phoenix body's injuries were not light, and she couldn't fight anymore. Without the phoenix body, they had lost the ability to control the situation and seize the opportunity. The following battle would be difficult. Raising his hand to swallow the phoenix body's power, Ningchen's expression was grave. He didn't expect the phoenix body to lose its fighting power at the most crucial moment. It was like adding frost to snow. How should we fight? The demonic body looked forward and asked in a deep voice. Her soul is far weaker than her physical body. She can't resist the judgment of time. You hold her back for 10 breaths. I will repair the divine restriction, Ningchen said calmly. 10 breaths. Okay. The demonic body replied in a deep voice. With a clench of his left hand, the immortal slaying sword flew into his hand. In an instant, the demonic body flashed past and entered the battle alone. Waving both swords, demonic waves surged. You only have one body left to fight? What a pity. The Qilin Patriarch sneered. He suppressed the chaotic soul power in his body. His right palm stirred up the wind and clouds, and he faced the two swords head-on. A sonorous sound reverberated through the night. Demonic energy surged and blood dripped. The valiant demonic body was covered in blood, which added to its madness. Every move was shocking. 1 breath, 2 breaths, 3 breaths. Without the phoenix body's control and the main body's cooperation, the battle became unprecedentedly desperate. Every sword move caused blood to spray. Every breath of time caused heavy injuries to the demonic body. Outside the battle, Ningchen's body was covered in snow. With blood as a guide and the seal as a lamp, he drew the power of time from the immortal sword to open the divine restriction again. With a bang, the demonic body blocked with both swords, but it was difficult to disperse the remaining power. The demonic body was sent flying several steps back. 10 breaths have already passed. Are you still not done? The demonic body coughed up a mouthful of blood and raised a hand to wipe away the blood at the corner of his mouth. I'm done, Ningchen said calmly. The immortal sword in his hand fell once more. The moment it entered the ground, a red light spread throughout the world. The yellow springs opened and time devoured souls. The divine restriction opened once more. Above the collapsed void, time flowed and rapidly devoured the vitality of the people within. Return, demonic body, Ningchen said softly. Then he clenched his left hand. The fairy-slaying sword flew from the demonic body's hand and disappeared into his hand. 9th Saber, God Territory. The ninth saber reappeared and the sword territory spread. Endless sword light rose into the sky, crisscrossing and spreading to every corner of the sword territory. Not far away, the demonic body dissipated and returned to the main body. The demonic body's task was completed. They returned to their respective places for the final battle. In the sword territory, the white-haired figure stood tall. His body was like a sword, and his body was like a sword. His white clothes flashed past, and he summoned back his essence. Every move returned to the beginning of the sword. The Qilin Patriarch used the power of heaven and earth to block the attack. However, the fairy-slaying sword was unstoppable. The sword split the wind and clouds, and time fell on the demonic body. Time was merciless. Every time it fell on the demonic body, the Qilin Patriarch's soul weakened a little. Sensing that time had come to an end, the Qilin Patriarch looked at the Qilin Pavilion below with nostalgia. He did not expect that he would not be able to protect it in the end. Unwilling to let his vitality be used up, the Qilin Patriarch's eyes flashed. He took the attack head-on. The power of the wind and clouds was released and forcefully engulfed the person in front of him. Let's go to hell together. With a deep roar, the Qilin Patriarch's soul power rushed to the 9 heavens. A moment later, his body exploded. At the critical moment of life and death, Ningchen stepped back quickly. The void in front of him swirled and a broken green cauldron appeared to protect him. Boom. In the earth-shattering explosion, the green cauldron took most of the impact. However, there was still a little power that went through and infused into Ningchen's body. A pool of blood splattered. His white hair was dyed red. His white clothes fell and crashed into the ground with the green cauldron. Cough cough. In the dust and sand flying in the sky, Ningchen staggered to his feet. His eyes looked at the huge black hole with turbulence in the sky. A touch of shock flashed across his eyes. That was close. If he did not get this green cauldron in the East Celestial world, he was afraid that this time, he would not be able to escape. Suddenly Ningchen's eyes darkened. He looked into the distance with a murderous look. Since you are here, show yourself. I haven't seen you for a long time. Your strength has increased a lot. However, how much can you do now? As he spoke, above the void, a beautiful figure descended from the sky. She held a red umbrella and blocked the moonlight in the sky. Chapter 870. The Qilin battle had come to an end. Suddenly, the wind changed and the moon weaver appeared, descending from the sky. The blood-red umbrella covered the cold moon. Under the moon, the fairy exuded a transcendent aura that made it difficult to distinguish between immortal and devil. The moon weaver. Ningchen's eyes darkened. He didn't conceal his killing intent, and the baleful aura around his immortal sword was oppressive. The moon weaver descended, her gaze sweeping over the destroyed Qilin Pavilion. She calmly said, "You were able to destroy an ancient inheritance by yourself. The 9th disciple of Mahis Gate. Or perhaps I should call you the Jiming Marquis. Your speed of growth has truly exceeded my expectations." "So you couldn't help but attack?" asked Ningchen coldly. The moon weaver stepped forward and said, "It's not strange for me to get rid of a potential problem while I'm at it." There was no fear on Ningchen's face. "You can try. I hope the potential problem you speak of won't become a real problem." The moon weaver stopped and looked at the person in front of her. "If you were at your peak, killing you might have been difficult. But in your current situation, killing you is as easy as blowing off dust. Since you're so confident, the Devil Palace must have been waiting for this moment for a long time," said Ningchen indifferently. "Your fate is different from ordinary people. If I want to kill you, as long as I find the right time, it won't be as difficult as I imagine," said the Moonweaver softly. "Then is this the time you think it is? In that case, there's no need to say anything more. Come, let this Marquis see just how capable the Devil Palace's third protector is." With that, Ningchen took a step forward. With a bang, the ground beneath his feet cracked. Red light filled the sky as his peerless foundation drew in the wind and snow. He once again opened his sword domain. Across from him, the Moon Weaver's expression hardened. With a wave of her slender hand, an ancient divine sword appeared and landed in front of her. She looked at the person in front of her and said indifferently, "Just now, you experienced a great battle. What do you think your chances of victory are?" "It's enough to deal with you," said Ningchen calmly. Neither side backed down, and the situation became more and more tense. A great battle was on the verge of breaking out. Just as the battle was about to begin, the Moon Weaver waved her hand and put away the inverted water moon. She said indifferently, "Marquis Jiming, the Devil Palace has no intention of being your enemy. I hope you can also abide by the boundaries. Now that butterfly in the flower is still in the Devil Palace, I hope you can take care of yourself." After she finished speaking, Moonweaver didn't stay any longer. She took a step forward and soared into the sky. Hearing the former's last words, killing intent flashed across Ning Chen's eyes. He clenched his fists and suddenly vomited a mouthful of blood, dyeing the sand in front of him red. "Ning Chen." In the distance, Lin Yuzhen rushed over. In the blink of an eye, she arrived in front of him and supported him. Ning Chen straightened his body, and the messy aura on his body gradually receded. A tired smile appeared on his face, and he said, "Your Highness, let's go quickly. If that woman comes back, it will really be troublesome." Lin Yuzhen nodded. She forcefully summoned her true essence to form a heavenly boat, and helped the people beside her onto it. After a while, they flew into the sky. The heavenly boat sped along, and a stream of light streaked across the starry sky. On the heavenly boat, the two of them were meditating. After a fierce battle, the two of them were heavily injured, and it was hard for them to completely recover in a short amount of time. After an hour, the two of them temporarily suppressed their injuries. Lin Yuzhen opened her eyes, looked at the man beside her, and said, "Who is that woman, and why did she appear in the Qilin Pavilion?" Ning Chen stood up, walked to the front of the heavenly boat, and said seriously, "She is Moon Weaver, a member of the Moon Devil clan, and also the third protector of the Devil Palace. She should have appeared in the Qilin Pavilion to take the opportunity to get rid of me. However, because she doesn't have full confidence, she hasn't shed all pretense of cordiality yet." "She is Moon Weaver? What grudge do you have with the Devil Palace for her to deliberately make a move against you?" Lin Yuzhen asked suspiciously. "There is no grudge." Ning Chen shook his head and said calmly, "Thinking about it, I have helped the Devil Palace to resolve quite a number of troubles these days. However, sometimes grudges aren't important. To the Devil Palace, I no longer have any value. Following this, if the Devil Palace makes a move, my existence will even become their hidden enemy. Therefore, it is not strange that the Devil Palace wants to take the opportunity to get rid of me." "Devil Palace," Lin Yuzhen said softly, worry flashing across her eyes. "From various signs, the Devil Palace will make a big move. Is this world with surging undercurrents finally going to welcome a drastic change? Your Highness, you don't have to be too worried. Now that the Qilin Pavilion has been destroyed, the alliance between Beiki and the Ji family has already been formed. Even if the Devil Palace wants to make things difficult for you, they will have to think twice," Ning Chen said softly. "Brother Ning's kindness, I will remember it in my heart. If there is an errand in the future, I will definitely go through water and tread on fire to repay your kindness," Lin Yuzhen said with a serious expression. She knew that the man in front of her had paid a heavy price to help her this time. They really didn't expect that the Qilin Pavilion really had the existence of the fourth realm. "Your Highness, you are too serious." Ning Chen smiled. "I can't go back on my promises. After returning to Fengming City, Your Highness should form an alliance with the Ji family as soon as possible to prevent any accidents from happening. I have some matters to attend to, so I will leave first." Hearing that, Lin Yuzhen frowned slightly and said, "Brother Ning, aren't you going to stay and recuperate for some time?" Ning Chen shook his head and said, "No need. Even if I stay, I won't have time to recuperate. The news of the Qilin Pavilion's destruction will spread very quickly. When the time comes, there will be many people coming. Your Highness must be mentally prepared." "Brother Ning, do you mean that these people are coming with ill intentions?" Lin Yuzhen asked seriously. "Good intentions aren't important. What's important is that now everyone in the world knows that I am on good terms with Your Highness. After the news of the Qilin Pavilion's destruction spreads, as long as I don't show up, everyone will be cautious and won't dare to act rashly. On the contrary, if I stay in Fengming City, not only will those who come in the future, even a great sect like the Ji family will feel threatened. Instead, it will bring a lot of trouble to your highness, Ningchen said calmly. After all, he hadn't stepped into the fourth realm. To the people in the world, the threat was greater than the deterrence. Moreover, since he reappeared in this world, several great sects that had been passed down for generations had met with mishaps one after another. It would definitely make the other great sects feel threatened. Therefore, him not showing up was the best choice. What plans does Brother Ning have? Lin Yuzhen asked softly. Ningchen smiled as his gaze looked into the distance and said, all these years, the limelight that should have been shown has been shown. Now it's time to do some shady things. When the time comes, if I have to trouble your highness, I hope that you won't refuse. Lin Yuzhen was stunned. Soon after, she revealed a shocked expression and said, Brother Ning, what do you mean? It's good that your highness knows. Don't tell anyone about this matter for the time being. Perhaps in the future, it will have an unexpected effect, Ningchen said with a smile. Do you have enough manpower in your hands? Lin Yuzhen nodded as she asked with a serious expression. Not enough, so I'm going to leave to find some friends. They've been wandering outside with nothing to do for so long. It's time to find something for them to do. As he spoke, the corners of Ning Chen's mouth curled into a strange arc, making people unconsciously shiver and feel uncomfortable all over. Chapter 871. In Fengming City, Ningchen left on the second day after their return. He didn't even attend the alliance ceremony between Beiki and the Ji family. In the Ji family's holy palace, Ji Yuechu was sitting on the main seat. He was looking outside the palace as thoughts flashed through his mind. Below the Great Hall, the ninth grand elder of the Ji family also had a solemn expression. The ninth son of Mo clan had given them a huge surprise this time. The news of the Qilin Pavilion being destroyed was too shocking. As one of the 11 ancient inheritances, the Ji family knew better than anyone how terrifying a great sect like the Qilin Pavilion was. The strength displayed by the ninth son of Mo clan had already made them feel threatened. Saint Lord! The ninth grand elder of the Ji family looked at the man on the main seat and said solemnly, I know what you mean. Ji Yuechu calmed himself down and said calmly, now that the Ji family and Beiki have formed an alliance, the ninth son of Mo clan is a friend and not an enemy. The stronger he is, the more advantageous it is for the Ji family. Even so, the ninth grand elder of the Ji family said with worry in his eyes, after the battle of the ancient battlefield, this person has formed grudges with many sects in various star regions. In addition, there have been incidents in the past few days. Every sect will be in danger. It's not certain whether it's a blessing or a curse for the Ji family to be too close to him. Don't think too much, Ji Yuechu said calmly. Since we've chosen to form an alliance with Beiki, we're already on the same side as this person. If he really has the strength of a fourth realm, this alliance will be worth it. This person is too secretive. I can't see through him. The ninth grand elder of the Ji family sighed softly. Everyone has their own secrets. We don't have to investigate too deeply. Now that this person has chosen to leave, we can rest assured. At the same time, it's also a warning to all the sects in the world. After all, no one wants to become the next Qilin Pavilion. Ji Yuechu sighed. The ninth grand elder of the Ji family nodded. Since things had come to this, it was useless to think too much. After all, forming an alliance with Beiki had more advantages than disadvantages, especially now that the Demon Palace had appeared. The Ji family didn't lack powerhouses. However, they didn't have the advantage in terms of powerhouses who could intimidate the world, and even the Demon Palace. As the two of them chatted, far away in the all-heaven starfield, the majestic demon city was situated between heaven and earth. Numerous demon palaces towered into the sky. It was a majestic and magnificent sight. In the sacred hall of the Devil Palace, within the Supreme Devil Hall, a man clad in a blue robe stood there quietly. His countenance was calm and tranquil, as though he could see through the mysteries of the heavens. His eyes were deep and calm, without the slightest ripple. "Greetings, Saint Priest." Moonweaver walked in, and bowed respectfully. "How is it?" Jiatian said lightly. Reporting to the Holy Minister, the Qilin Pavilion really did have a fourth realm cultivator. However, he died at the hands of that Jiming Marquis. Moonweaver replied truthfully. He has 2 immortal swords and the time restriction. In addition, the Qilin Pavilion's old ancestor's vitality is declining and his lifespan is drying up. His cultivation is no longer at its peak, and he fears the power of time the most. It is not surprising that such an outcome would occur. Jiatian replied calmly and continued. "What I want to know is whether he's alive or dead." Moonweaver was silent for a moment, and then she said, "I wasn't completely confident, so I didn't attack." Jiatian's eyes narrowed when he heard this, and he said, "With your cultivation and the Moon Devil clan's divine artifact, the Moon Reversal, killing the exhausted 9th son of Mo clan is as easy as lifting a finger. Moonweaver, you need to give me a satisfactory explanation." Reporting to the Holy Minister, Moonweaver bowed and said seriously, "The strength displayed by this Jiming Marquis has repeatedly exceeded my expectations. Even under the previous circumstances, he still gave me an extremely dangerous feeling. Therefore, before I am completely confident, I don't want to provoke such a great enemy for the Demon Palace." Jiatian looked coldly at the woman before him. After a long while, his expression returned to normal, and he said indifferently, "Forget it. Since things have come to this, there's no point in pursuing the matter. This child's fate is special. It won't be difficult to find an opportunity to kill him. There's no harm in waiting a few more days." "Thank you for your understanding, Saint Priest." Moonweaver bowed respectfully. Jiatian nodded and said, "The time has come. Get to work." Moonweaver's expression froze when she heard this. She immediately half knelt and said respectfully, "As you command." Moonweaver stood up and walked out of the hall. 10 days later, at the border between the All-Heaven Starfield and the Luajia Starfield, the Reverence Moon Ancient Ground, the sacred land of the Reverence Moon Clan. Tens of thousands of Reverence Moon Clan members were kneeling before an altar. On the altar, a holy figure was kneeling before a stone statue of the Moon God, praying devoutly. At this moment, in the distant horizon, the demonic clouds hid the moon. One after another, powerful figures descended from the sky. The leader held a red umbrella in her hand. Her beautiful face did not have a trace of human emotion, and was cold to the bone. The Moon Demon Clan and the Reverence Moon Clan had been opposing each other since ancient times. Today, the flames of war had reignited. Beneath the altar, the Reverence Moon Clan members stood up and looked at the numerous figures descending from the sky. Their expressions all turned serious. In front of the Moon God statue, the Reverence Moon Venerable sighed softly. They had finally come. "High Priest, give the order." Below the altar, an azure-robed old man respectfully requested the High Priest. The Reverence Moon Venerable nodded. He looked into the distance and said softly, "Everyone, the holy war is imminent. The glory of the Moon God cannot be blasphemed. In the name of the Reverence Moon Clan's High Priest, today, all blasphemous demons shall be killed without mercy." "Yes." The Reverence Moon Clan members respectfully saluted and accepted the order. The great battle was about to break out. In the void, more than 100 Moon Demon Clan experts descended. Moonweaver took a step forward and said coldly, "Kill." Yes. Everyone accepted the order. In an instant, one figure after another flew out. Demonic chi filled the sky. The battle between the saints and demons had finally begun. Below the altar, the Reverence Moon Clan members also went up to meet the enemy. Among the experts of the Reverence Moon Clan, 2 figures stood quietly facing each other. They had the same holy aura, making it impossible to tell who was the saint and who was the demon. "Moon Goddess, please protect your servant and help us slay the demons." In front of the Moon God statue, the Reverence Moon Venerable bowed respectfully and said softly. As soon as he finished speaking, the Moon God statue on the altar shone brightly. White moonlight shone and entered the bodies of the Reverence Moon Clan members on the battlefield. "What's the use of begging that illusory Moon God now? Do you think she can protect you?" The Moon Weaver looked at the woman on the altar and said coldly, "Blasphemy against the gods is unforgivable. Today, I will make you pay for it in front of the gods." The Reverence Moon Venerable replied coldly. He walked down the altar step by step. The aura around him grew stronger and stronger. Under the support of the moon god's power, his body broke through the limits and reached the peak of his life. Seeing this, the Moon Weaver waved her delicate hand. In the midst of flowing light, the inverted moon appeared again. The moment the sword was unsheathed, the sky was filled with multicolored light. In the next moment, the sword passed through the sky, filling the sky with killing intent. 12 forms of spiritual rhino, heaven-raising waterfall. As soon as they made their moves, they collided with each other. Their moves collided, and boundless flames of battle instantly arose. Tempestuous waves surged endlessly, and a force that could destroy the heavens and the earth swiftly swept out. In the clash of sword and palm, the Reverence Moon Venerable used the moon god's power to instantly seize the initiative. His palm swept up a flood, splitting the sky and splitting the sea. With a boom, the raging waves spread for thousands of miles. The Moon Weaver lightly moved her feet, dodging the raging waves. Then, her sword condensed wind yuan and slashed down. 12 forms of spiritual rhino, sky soul burial. With a long shout, the Reverence Moon Venerable flipped his palms, condensing moonlight that filled the sky. He countered with a move, and the raging waves met the light of the divine sword. The two moves collided, and the sky darkened. The Reverence Moon Venerable took a step forward, and his figure rushed out. The energy in his palms converged, and the extreme power appeared again. 12 forms of spiritual rhino, splitting the sea and splitting the flood. The moonlight fell from the sky, and thousands of caddies converged. The Reverence Moon Venerable's palm condensed 100 times, and it broke through the sea. The Moon Weaver focused her eyes and waved her sword. The dazzling sword light soared into the sky. The moon on the water softly cried, and the void turned upside down. The raging waves shook the divine sword, and the sky and earth instantly turned upside down. However, in the midst of the raging waves, the waterfall reversed and actually counterattacked the Reverence Moon Venerable. The Reverence Moon Venerable's expression darkened. He took a step forward, and dodged the shocking waterfall. Gathering his energy, he slapped the person in front of him. With a boom, the sword and palm collided again. The aftershock roared in all directions, and the Reverence Moon Venerable's divine power appeared again. The Reverence Moon Venerable's body became light, and he involuntarily soared into the sky. Destitute head blue sky moon descends sky. With one move, the Moon Weaver took a step forward and soared into the sky. Her sword split open the starry sky, and the yellow springs appeared again. The Reverence Moon Venerable focused, and did not dare to be careless. He gathered his energy, and a gale coiled around his body. The raging waves swept out and fell from the sky. With a boom, the raging waves dissipated, and the sword light shattered. The divine sword showed its power, and the Reverence Moon Venerable's figure sank, and he fell from the sky. After 100 feet, the Reverence Moon Venerable stopped his fall. He looked at the woman in the sky and said coldly, "Is this the divine weapon of the Moon Demon clan? It really lives up to its name." The Moon Weaver's figure slowly descended from the sky. The moonlight in her hands became even more dazzling. The peerless divine weapon was shocking. Just as the battle between the saints and demons was about to begin again, far away in the endless starry sky, a plain-clothed figure was constantly moving forward, chasing after the footsteps of his close friends in search of their traces. In the Sky Mist Star region, in the Sky Pass Holy City, a great sect with a long history, the peace was broken today. Catch him! A furious roar reverberated in the holy city. An instant later, a purple light flashed past, and his clothes were tattered. He was in an abnormally sorry state. "Didn't I just take a piece of scrap metal from you? Is there a need to kill all of us? I've done so much for you, so what if I take a piece of scrap metal from you?" Luo Xingqian turned around and cursed, but he did not dare to stop at all. He quickly rushed forward. "Don't let him escape. Catch him quickly." An angry voice rang out in the holy city. Yes. As the voice rang out, numerous figures flew out from the depths of the holy city. Their auras were majestic, and their cultivations were incomparably powerful. None of them were below the true realm. They moved together to chase after a young man who was only at the mid-corporeal realm. The scene was truly indescribable. "You bastards, so many people are chasing after me. Do you have any shame?" Luo Xingqian cursed again when he saw several figures appear behind him. His figure sped up, and he desperately fled out of the holy city. The chase left all the people in the city dumbfounded. No one knew what was going on. "Friend, long time no see. You're in such a sorry state." At this moment, a plain-clothed figure appeared in the sky. He smiled as he looked at the rapidly fleeing figure. Chapter 872. In the Reverence Moon Ancient Ground, the Moon Devil race and the Reverence Moon race were at war. Blood dyed the ground red, and corpses littered the ground. At the center of the battle, the Reverence Moon Venerable and the Moon Weaver faced each other. The name of the Reverence Moon Venerable shall be reborn today. 3 lives reincarnation sword. The Moon Weaver took a step forward, causing mountains to crumble. The Moon Weaver's sword soared into the sky, and the 3 lives reincarnation sword appeared for the first time. Martial arts that surpassed the limits of the world caused the wind and clouds to change. Thunder and lightning descended, and 3 illusory figures appeared. Under the moonlight, they danced with their swords. Their profoundness was boundless, and it was as if the sword gods had descended to teach the heavens their martial arts. The Reverence Moon Venerable's spirit condensed, and his hands moved in the air. Boundless energy surged, and 10,000 rays of light converged. Reincarnation appeared, and 3 lives appeared at the same time. A world-shaking sword tore through the sky, and the 3 swords danced together, splitting the night sky into 3. "Ha!" The sword light arrived, and the Reverence Moon Venerable roared. He stepped into the air, and without dodging, his palm met the sword might head-on. The power of the Holy Devil race collided once more, and after a moment of stalemate, they rapidly devoured each other. In the blink of an eye, the 2 forces exploded, and a terrifying shockwave swept out in all directions. Drip. Scarlet drops fell from the sky. The 2 of them looked at each other, and their arms were dyed red. They were evenly matched in this battle of extreme moves. Since ancient times, there was no room for mercy. The killing intent in the Reverence Moon Venerable's eyes grew stronger and stronger, and his usual holiness turned into killing intent. On the other hand, the Moon Weaver's red umbrella blocked the moonlight. Her country-toppling beauty was indifferent, and her devil chi was nowhere to be seen. It was difficult to distinguish between the Holy Devil race and the Holy Devil race. The only thing that could be seen was the increasing pressure. Bring out your full strength. Otherwise, none of you will be able to leave today. The Reverence Moon Venerable said coldly. His right palm shook, and the moon god statue behind him shone even brighter. It gathered around his body, increasing the pressure. "As you wish," the Moon Weaver indifferently replied. She released her left hand, and the red umbrella floated with the wind, flying away from the battlefield. As the seal left her body, moonlight illuminated her body. In an instant, an abnormally terrifying aura erupted from Moon Weaver's body. At first, it was pure and holy like a god, but a moment later, a demonic wave soared into the heavens, chilling to the bone. The Moon Weaver's long hair danced in the wind as demonic energy surged around her. The moon-shaped mark on her forehead exuded an aura that made one's heart palpitate. It was something that had never been seen before. Most of his body had entered the 4th realm, and he was only one step away from ascending to immortality and transcending the mortal world. Upon seeing this, Bai Yu's face turned solemn, and he shouted softly. Godly rays shot up into the sky and streaks of light shot out from the moon god statue on the altar. The moon god battle armor appeared, and the 26 pieces of armor attached themselves onto the moon god battle armor. The 2 of them revealed their trump cards for the first time. Before they even clashed, boundless pressure surged out violently. Expanse after expanse of the void collapsed under the extreme pressure, and it was difficult to repair. Kill. With the addition of her demonic form, killing intent filled her eyes. Moon Weaver's figure vanished in an instant. When she reappeared, Her sword light was dazzling, and the battle had begun. Waterfall. Bai the Venerable condensed godly light in his hands and unleashed a tremendous amount of power. With a massive boom, divine power shook the edge of the sword. Moonweaver felt a tremendous force pass through her sword, and she flew back hundreds of meters. Is this the power of the Moon God battle armor? Moonweaver stabilized herself and looked at the Moon God battle armor on the woman in front of her. Bai the Venerable didn't say anything. He took a step forward and his figure flashed forward once more, his slender hand swatting at the former. Moonweaver narrowed her eyes and dodged to the side. She then raised her hand and gathered Yuan to counterattack. With a bang, the palm energy was added to the Moon God battle armor, but the moonlight lingered and the palm energy dissipated. Naive to the extreme, Bai the Venerable sneered and struck out with his palm energy, adding a tremendous amount of power to the former's body. With a muffled groan, Moonweaver was sent flying again, her clothes dyed red. The situation had changed, and the Moon God battle armor appeared for the first time. Every move was peerless and divine. Pay with your life for my clansmen. Bai the Venerable shouted coldly. His figure sped forward, his divine clothes flowing with light. His attacks were powerful and shocking. When the killing move arrived, Moonweaver's expression actually calmed down. The inverted water in her hand shone brilliantly with moonlight. Demonic chi roiled, and a dark silver brilliance shot into the moonlight. The moon demon form manifested, the opposition of saint and demon, colliding with each other. With a boom, waves surged, and the aftershocks continued. Bai was sent flying, spitting out a mouthful of blood. His expression was gloomy. Moon God. Bai the Venerable looked at the illusory demon battle armor behind the woman in front of him. What is a god? What is a demon? The demon battle armor returned to her body. Moonweaver walked forward step by step, her long hair dancing in the wind. Her killing intent was bone-piercing. Her expression was indifferent. The difference between gods and demons is just the imagination of ignorant people. What right do weak humans have to talk about gods and demons? Arrogant. Bai the Venerable's expression was cold. With a flip of his hand, endless divine power surged out of his divine clothes. Moonlight shone down, illuminating the world. 1 is the beginning of numbers, 9 is the end of numbers. Reincarnation sword 9 lives 1. The Moonweaver held her sword horizontally, her fingers slicing through the air. Immediately, dark silver demon chi surged out. Layer after layer of sword light manifested and merged into one. The 9 lives reincarnation sword, the number 9. The sword power rose rapidly, multiplying by 100 times in an instant. Its demonic might shook the world. At the peak of life, blood and chi were endless. The two descendants of gods and demons displayed the most terrifying level of power, surpassing the limits of the world. The pressure was boundless and unparalleled, approaching the legendary 4th level. The two extremes collided. The two extreme powers devoured each other, turning the void within 1,000 miles into a black hole. No light appeared, and the world seemed dead. In the aftermath, two figures slowly descended. Their auras clashed, bringing with them a dazzling waterfall of blood. Moonweaver, the demon palace has achieved its goal. It's time to retreat. Also, as he spoke, a purple-robed figure walked out from the void. He looked into the distance and said indifferently, "House Master, show yourself." As expected, I can't hide from my old friend's eyes. A familiar voice was heard, and in the next moment, a handsome figure wearing a silver-gray cloak descended from the sky. He looked at the two people in front of him and said with a smile, "Shenji, Bai greetings." "House Master Xiao Yu." Bai the Venerable's expression darkened, and he could not suppress his anger. "House Master, shouldn't you give us an explanation?" Shenji looked at the man standing opposite him and said calmly, "The price offered by the Demon Palace is hard for me to refuse. Business is business, isn't it?" Xiao Yu the House Master smiled. Shenji's eyes narrowed. For the House Master to be willing to become enemies with the world, it seems that the Demon Palace has promised an incredible return. However, you must think clearly. No matter how good the price is, it's worthless if you don't live to enjoy it. I will remember my friend's reminder. Since my friend is here, why don't we call it quits today? Xiao Yu the house master smiled. Shinji glanced at the battle below and said indifferently, "Sure." Shinji, Bai Yu said anxiously. Shinji raised his hand and stopped him from continuing. He looked at the two people in front of him and said, "Go back and tell your saint that this is not 30,000 years ago. If the demon palace is still stubborn, we will accompany them. I will pass on your message." After saying that, Xiao Yu the house master's body shone brightly. She took the woman beside her and disappeared. On the ground, the Moon Demon Clan's experts also shone with a dazzling light and left together. Shinji Yu, Bai Yu the Venerable, was anxious, and his internal injuries exploded. He staggered and spat out a mouthful of blood. "Let's talk later. Let's heal first." Shinji helped the former up, and their silhouettes flashed, heading toward the altar below. Bai Yu the Venerable sat cross-legged on the moon god altar. He closed his eyes and adjusted his breathing. In front of him, the moon god statue shone with light to help him heal. After an hour, Bai Yu the Venerable opened his eyes and looked at the man standing in front of him. He said, "Shinji, please give me an explanation." Shinji turned around and looked at the woman in front of him. He sighed and said, "Bai Yu, I know that the Bai Yu clan and the Moon Demon clan have a deep grudge. However, the Demon Palace is the strongest now. It is impossible for the Bai Yu clan to deal with them alone. The most important thing is to preserve your strength before the final battle." Bai Yu the Venerable's face flashed with unwillingness. However, he knew that what Shinji said was true. Even if they fought the Moon Demon clan to the end, both sides would suffer great losses. For the Demon Palace, which was at its peak, it was not enough to hurt them. The Demon Palace had shown the world how terrifying they were 30,000 years ago. After 30,000 years of recuperation, even if they only recovered 10 or 20% of their original strength, it was enough to sweep the world. Heavenly Mist Starfield, Heavenly U City. The entire city was mobilized to chase the thief who stole the holy relic. The people in the city were shocked and looked up at the sky. In the void, Sui walked out. Looking at her old friend who was being chased, a gloating expression appeared on her face. However, she had no intention of helping. He knew her friend's character better than anyone. Her ability to cause trouble was first class, and her ability to escape was unparalleled. Even he felt inferior to her. Back then, this guy betrayed the Zhao family when he was still in the Xiantian realm. The Zhao family had so many third calamity experts, but none of them could catch him. Who would have thought that after 100 years, this guy's ability to cause trouble and escape had improved? This voice. Luo Xingqian was startled when he heard the familiar voice by his ear. He immediately looked to his left. When he saw the person who had arrived, he revealed a surprised expression. Without saying anything, he immediately changed his direction and fled. Behind him, the Heavenly Yu Sacred City's divine generals saw this and narrowed their eyes. An expert. Not allowing anything to happen to the holy relic, 3 Heavenly Yu divine generals rushed over and stood between the two, blocking their way. Luo Xingqian stopped and looked at the man in plain clothes behind the 3 Heavenly Yu divine generals. He said, "Jiming, hurry and help." As soon as he finished speaking, another 4 Heavenly Yu divine generals rushed over. They looked at the young man not far away and were on guard. "Everyone, please continue. I'm just passing by," Ningchen said with a smile. Then he deliberately stepped back to give the two sides some space. "Jiming, you bastard." Luo Xingqian was stunned at first. After a while he recovered and cursed angrily. Chapter 873. The 7 divine generals were chasing after Luo Xingqian in the Heavenly Yu Sacred City. The situation was tense, and a fight could break out at any moment. Outside the battle, a white-haired figure in plain clothes stood quietly with a smile on his face. He was observing the development of the situation. "Luo Xingqian, hand over the sacred mark iron, and come with us to apologize to the city master. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite." The leader of the 7 divine generals, a middle-aged man, said coldly, "Don't even think about it. I will be chopped into pieces by the city master if I go back with you. Do you think I am stupid? Luo Xingqian replied with disdain. He looked around without leaving a trace, trying to find a way to escape. You want to do this the hard way? Catch him. The middle-aged man snorted coldly. Under his command, his figure flashed past, and he raised his hand to catch the thief in the battle. The first divine general made his move, and the other 6 divine generals followed suit. They attacked fiercely, trying to catch the thief alive. Murder. The divine general of the sacred city is killing the innocent. In the battle, Luo Xingqian used a strange footwork to avoid wave after wave of attacks. On the other hand, he found a gap and shouted loudly. The first divine general heard it and frowned. He paused and hesitated. Seeing this, Luo Xingqian immediately ran away and flashed past the first divine general. Where are you going? The first divine general came back to his senses. He stepped forward and blocked Luo Xingqian again. He raised his hand and grabbed Luo Xingqian's shoulder. Luo Xingqian immediately retreated and avoided the person in front of him. He ran in another direction. You can't escape. The third and fifth divine generals appeared in front of him and blocked his way. Behind him, the second and sixth divine generals caught up and blocked his way. On the other side, the fourth and seventh divine generals flashed and blocked the last escape route. All paths would be blocked. Luo Xingqian's gaze swept back and forth. When he saw that there was really no place to escape, he couldn't help but look at the figure outside the battle. His eyes turned and he shouted, "It's that person who ordered me to steal your holy relic." The 7 divine generals were stunned when they heard it. They subconsciously looked at the figure in plain clothes not far away. Luo Xingqian saw the opportunity. He clenched his left hand and the star mark appeared. 4 arrows were shot at the 2 divine generals in front of him. The third and fifth divine generals came back to their senses. They immediately retreated and avoided the arrows. In the blink of an eye, the purple-robed figure flashed past. His fleeing speed was so fast that it was shocking. In the blink of an eye, he was far away. The 7 divine generals' faces darkened as they quickly chased after him. As they passed by, they looked at the plain-clothed young man not far away, and could not hide their wariness. Ningchen nodded at the 7 of them with a smile on his face. He did not make a move, nor did he stop them. The reputation of this heavenly sacred city seemed to be pretty good. Luo Xingqian, this brat, had stolen their sacred object. When the 7 great divine generals took action, they only wanted to capture him alive and didn't kill him. This was truly admirable. Behind the 7 great godly generals, Ningchen followed them unhurriedly. He maintained a certain distance from the beginning and did not interfere in the matter between the 2 sides. At the front, Luo Xingqian fled with all his might, not daring to stop for even a moment. The 7 divine generals continued their pursuit. When they saw that the end of the holy city's territory was right in front of them, they became even more anxious. Once they left the territory of the holy city, they would enter the territory of the other forces. If they did not handle it well, it might cause a conflict between the 2 great heritages. At the end of the heavenly sacred city, where the 2 worlds intersected, Luo Xingqian stopped in his tracks. Looking at the few people chasing after him, he laughed arrogantly. "I'm going out. Go ahead and chase after me. Go ahead and chase after me. Also Jiming, your uncle. Don't let me see you again. Otherwise, I will shoot you into a hornet's nest." After saying that, Luo Xingqian laughed out loud again. Immediately after, he turned around and fled out of the heavenly sacred city. Ouch! Suddenly Luo Xingqian cried out in pain. Before he could regain his senses, his body was slapped out and crashed onto the ground. City Master. Seeing the old man in front of them, the 7 great divine generals were stunned and immediately bowed respectfully. "Bring him back." The city master of heavenly sacred city said calmly. "Yes." The 7 great divine generals obeyed. Their figures swept down and surrounded the figure on the ground. "Luo Xingqian, come back with us. If you resist again, don't blame us for being ruthless." Among the 7 great divine generals, the only female general who was ranked 7th looked at the person in front of her and said angrily, "I won't resist. Definitely won't resist." Luo Xingqian replied shamelessly with a smile. His eyes looked at the old figure standing in the sky and couldn't help but have a headache. Why did this old monster come out personally? Is he going to let me live? The seventh great divine general went forward and clasped Luo Xingqian's shoulder. She reprimanded. Let's go. Behave yourself. Luo Xingqian rubbed his head and was pushed forward unwillingly. It's over. I didn't manage to escape. I'm in trouble now. Above the void, Ningchen walked over. Looking at the scene below, he smiled. He didn't know why, but when he saw this fellow suffering, his mood was surprisingly good. At the edge of the heavenly Yu sacred city, the city master looked at the plain-clothed young man in front of him. After staring at him for a long time, he said, "Thank you for not interfering with the matters of my sacred city." City master is too polite. Ningchen cupped his fist and bowed. He smiled and said, I have long heard of the reputation of the heavenly Yu city master. I have never had the chance to meet you. Now that I have met you today, you are indeed worthy of your reputation. You flatter me. The heavenly Yu city master replied softly. He looked at the young man who was being dragged away by Xiaoqi and said, You and Luo Xingqian are friends, right? Ningchen nodded and didn't hide anything. He replied, A friend of life and death. If that's the case, please have a seat in the city. Luo Xingqian stole the sacred relic of the sacred city. His crime is not light. It will be difficult for him to leave in a short time, the city master said politely. Then I will have to trouble the city master. Ningchen didn't refuse and stepped forward to follow him. In the sacred city's city master's residence, the seventh godly general dragged Luo Xingqian to the front of the sky prison and pushed him in. She said angrily, Go in and reflect on your actions. Luo Xingqian, I really misjudged you. The sacred city sincerely took you in, but you repaid kindness with enmity. Seventh elder sister, please calm down. How would I dare to steal the sacred relic of the sacred city? I just borrowed it. In the sky prison, Luo Xingqian had a fawning smile as he said, Seventh elder sister, you're a magnanimous person. Please forgive me this time. Also, can seventh elder sister help me put in a good word for the city lord? Hearing this, the seventh godly general was so angry that she was speechless. After living for so long, this was the first time she saw such a shameless person. Seventh elder sister? Luo Xingqian called out again. The seventh godly general clenched her fists and suppressed the anger in her heart. She snorted and turned to leave. Seventh elder sister, don't forget to plead for me. Looking at the seventh elder's back view, Luo Xingqian shouted in the sky prison. Get lost. A furious reply came. After a while, the sky prison's door closed with a bang, and the seventh godly general disappeared. Not good enough. Luo Xingqian mumbled in boredom. He sat in the sky prison and stared at the door in a daze. Yo, isn't this our all-powerful hero who saved the world? Why are you locked in the prison? After saying that, a plain-clothed figure appeared in the sky prison. He looked at his good friend in the sky prison and teased him. Jiming, damn you. You are ungrateful for not saving me when I am in danger. Hearing this, Luo Xingqian jumped up and scolded the person in front of him. Goodbye. Hearing this, Ningchen turned and left. Hey, don't. Seeing this, Luo Xingqian quickly changed her words and said, Brother Ning, since you are here, why don't you chat for a while? Can we chat? Ningchen stopped and raised his eyebrows. Yes. Luo Xingqian nodded vigorously. Ningchen then turned around and took 2 steps forward. He smiled and said, I say, why are you so bored that you would steal someone else's sacred item? Great, now you've been caught. It's all because you did not save me. Luo Xingqian replied in a bad mood. If I save you, I will be helping the evildoer do evil. I can't tell right from wrong. Stop. Luo Xingqian quickly interrupted the former and said, I know you are very reasonable. All right, I did not want to steal their sacred item. I just wanted to borrow it. Hearing this, Ningchen looked at the person in front of him. After a long while, he said with disdain, I would be a fool to believe you. Hearing this, Luo Xingqian was furious. He pointed at the former and scolded, Jiming Marquis, I have tolerated you for a long time. You want to fight? When I get out, I will beat you up so badly that even your own mother won't recognize you. That will have to wait until you can get out. Ning Chen stepped forward and knocked on the cage of the celestial prison from behind. He nodded in satisfaction and said, "This material is really good. Not to mention that your cultivation is sealed now. Even if it wasn't, you would still need to smash it for a few hours." "Jiming, you are really my good friend." Luo Xingqian gritted his teeth in anger. The Sky Yu Sacred City's Skylock prison was famous. Not to mention him, even a true realm expert could not escape from it. "Oh right, where did you hide the sacred item?" Ning Chen asked curiously. "Why?" Luo Xingqian looked at the former cautiously and asked. Ning Chen was speechless. This guy still wanted to keep that piece of broken metal. What was wrong with his head? Luo Xingqian rolled his eyes. Suddenly his eyes lit up and said, "Jiming, can we discuss something?" "Let's hear it," Ning Chen said calmly. Luo Xingqian walked half a step forward and grabbed the cage door. He said excitedly, "Jiming, how about this? If you save me, I will give you half of that piece of broken metal." Ning Chen looked at his good friend and said, "Luo Xingqian, I really admire you." "Admire me for what?" Luo Xingqian was confused and asked. "I admire you for being so shameless," Ning Chen said with disdain. "Jiming." Luo Xingqian was so angry that his chest was blocked. He pointed at the person in front of him and gritted his teeth. "Are you going to save me or not? Just say it." Ning Chen looked at the former indifferently and said, "No, you." Luo Xingqian gritted his teeth and said, "Don't go too far when you do things. Tell me, what do I have to do for you to save me?" Ning Chen smiled and raised his hand to knock on the door of the Skylock prison. He said, "This thing is really sturdy." "No wonder the Sky Yu City Lord let me see you without worry. I will not do something as shameful as breaking out of prison. However, it is not difficult to negotiate with the Sky Yu City Lord to exchange you out. As for the price?" When he spoke up to hear, the corners of Ning Chen's mouth curled up slightly into a spurious smile that caused others to be unable to help but feel a chill run down their spines. He said, "Good friend, don't wander about aimlessly after you come out. Come with me to do something. Chaos is about to arrive, so we can't do nothing, right?" Chapter 874. Sky Moon Sacred City. Blue and white flowers fluttered in the wind. Inside the city lord's mansion, there was a dazzling blue flame everywhere. The scene was mesmerizing. In a small pavilion in the west garden, two figures sat inside. Outside the pavilion, the fourth and seventh divine generals stood quietly. They looked at the white-haired young man in the pavilion with fear in their eyes. As the top experts in the world, although they couldn't see through this young man's cultivation, their instincts as warriors told them that this person was very strong. He might not be weaker than the city lord. "Mr. Ning, this should be your first time in Sky Moon City. How do you feel?" In the pavilion, the city lord raised his tea and asked, "A paradise on earth, a paradise." Ning Chen raised his teacup and didn't hesitate to praise. "It's good that Mr. Ning likes it." The city lord took a sip of the blue and white flower tea and said, "Although Sky Moon City is far away, I have heard of Mr. Ning's fame. Seeing you today, I can see that you are indeed a dragon among men. Your temperament is extraordinary." "City Lord is overpraising me." Ning Chen smiled and said, "City Lord doesn't need to add gold to my face. I know very well what the rumors say about me. I don't deserve the fame, but the infamy is more appropriate." The city lord smiled faintly and said, "Seeing is believing. If Mr. Ning is really as evil as the rumors say, you wouldn't have let Luo Xingqian be captured by Sky Moon City today." "City Lord, although my friend doesn't play by the rules, he isn't someone who bites the hand that feeds him. He stole your city's sacred item, and is only borrowing it. He won't really not return it," Ning Chen said seriously. "I understand." The city lord nodded and said, "I have lived for so long. I don't have any other skills, but I do have a good eye for people. Luo Xingqian isn't a bad person. He has contributed a lot in these years since he came to Sky Moon City. However, the crime of stealing the sacred mark iron is not small. It's good to let him reflect on it." City Lord must have known that my friend is after the sacred mark iron. Ningchen smiled. The City Lord nodded and said, he once asked to borrow it from me to reforge his star mark bow. However, the sacred mark iron is our city's sacred item, and can't be easily given to the outside world. Therefore, I rejected him. Ningchen chuckled and said, it seems like the loss of the sacred mark iron was also a trap set by the City Lord. Unfortunately, Luo Xingqian didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and really fell into the trap. The Sky Ascension City Lord put down the teacup in his hand and said, Mr. Ning is wrong about that. Luo Xingqian must have seen that this is a trap. However, this is his only chance and he has no choice but to jump in. The City Lord is wise. Ningchen stood up, clasped his fists and praised. It's not that brilliant. Sky Moon City had the upper hand in this matter. It's not strange that Luo Xingqian failed. Moreover, he didn't really want to fall out with Holy City, so he had a lot of concerns when he attacked. Otherwise, with his strength, even if I personally attacked, it wouldn't be so easy to catch him. The Sky Moon City Lord smiled. I admire the City Lord's magnanimity. Luo Xingqian was indeed in the wrong in this matter. I wonder how I can make up for it in order to offset my friend's mistake. Ningchen said seriously. Is Mr. Ning in a hurry to take him away? The Skysore City Lord asked. There are indeed some matters that require his help. Ningchen nodded. The Skysore City Lord looked at the plain-clothed young man in front of him and said, originally, I only wanted to lock Luo Xingqian up for a while, and then let him go after a little beating. However, since Mr. Ning has pleaded for mercy, it's not impossible to release him in advance. However, if we just let him go like this, it will definitely be difficult to appease the public. If Mr. Ning wants to take him out of the Sky Prison, you need to do something for my city. As long as Mr. Ning completes this task, I will immediately order Luo Xingqian to be released. I can even lend him the sacred mark iron for 3 days. Please speak, City Lord. Ning Chen's expression turned serious. According to this, there is a fallen soul abyss 7,000 miles away. The power of the laws there is extremely strong, and it is difficult for humans and ghosts to enter. However, because of this, there is a unique Sit King stone in this world. This stone is very unique and very difficult to find. My Sky Ascension City has searched for hundreds of years, and only found a few scattered pieces. It is very difficult to become a treasure. Therefore, I hope Mr. Ning can make a trip there on my behalf. The Sky Ascension City Lord said seriously. How much of this stone does your city need? Ningchen asked. The Sky Ascension City Lord reached out a hand and gently grasped it. He calmly said, I only need this much. As Ningchen saw this, a strange light flashed in his eyes. He said, it seems the Sit King stone is truly difficult to find. The Sky Ascension City Lord nodded. I won't hide it from Mr. Ning. This matter is indeed not easy. However, Mr. Ning's strength is extraordinary. Perhaps you can go deeper into the fallen soul abyss and find enough Sit King stones. I know what to do. Ningchen nodded. I will immediately set out to find this item for your city. I also ask the City Lord to take good care of my friend and not let anything happen to him. Don't worry, Mr. Ning. The Sky Ascension City Lord solemnly replied. In Sky Ascension City, as long as the City Lord is here, no one can harm his life. Mr. Ning will definitely encounter many troubles on this trip to the Fallen Soul Abyss. I will have Little Seven send you there. Along the way, I will also explain to Mr. Ning the situation in detail. Then I will have to thank the City Lord. Ningchen did not refuse. He stood up and said, it's getting late. I will set out now and try to reach the Fallen Soul Abyss before sunset. The Sky Ascension City Lord gently nodded. He looked at the 7th Divine General outside the pavilion and said, Little Seven, accompany Mr. Ning on this trip. Yes. The 7th Divine General cupped his fists and respectfully accepted the order. Ning Chun stepped out of the pavilion. The 7th Divine General stepped forward and said, Mr. Please. Ning Chun nodded and continued to walk forward. The two immediately set out. Without any delay, they rushed out of the Sky Ascension City together. To the west of Sky Ascension City, 2 figures sped past. Their speed became faster and faster. Not long after, they disappeared under the setting sun. As the sun set, the two figures stopped in front of an abyss that stretched for thousands of miles. The seventh divine general looked at the abyss in front of him and said with a dignified expression, "We're here. Mr. Ning, you must be careful. If you feel that you can't hold on any longer, come out as soon as possible." "I understand. Miss, you can go back first," Ning Chen softly replied. He took a step and leapt into the abyss in front of him. Sky Ascension City. In a small pavilion in the West Garden, the Sky Ascension City Lord stood quietly. He looked at the setting sun in the west, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. City Lord. Outside the pavilion, the fourth divine general hesitated for a long time. Finally, he couldn't hold back the doubts in his heart and asked, "Do you really trust this Mr. Ning? In the rumors of the world, this person's reputation isn't that great. He wouldn't come to the Sky Ascension City with other intentions, right? Whether or not he has other intentions, I don't know. However, the only thing I can be sure of is that this Mr. Ning isn't as evil as the rumors say." The Sky Ascension City Lord said with a calm expression, "I'm sure you know about the Qilin Pavilion being destroyed. What do you think is the possibility of my Sky Ascension City stopping the falling stars if he interferes in today's situation?" The fourth divine general fell silent. After a moment he shook his head and said, "This subordinate doesn't know. Not even 10%. The Sky Ascension City Lord said faintly, "This person's strength has already surpassed mine. In other words, in this world, unless a true fourth realm cultivator makes a move, no one can stop him. Even those old monsters who have been corroded by time can't do it." The fourth divine general was shocked. After a long time he suppressed the shock in his heart and said, "City Lord, you mean that this person's strength is already comparable to a fourth realm cultivator?" The Sky Ascension City Lord nodded and said, "Perhaps, compared to a true fourth realm cultivator, there is still a gap. However, this gap is no longer that of heaven and earth." The fourth divine general's heart stirred again and said, "City Lord, didn't you say that an old monster like the Qilin ancestor who has withered up his vitality can't be considered a true fourth realm cultivator?" "I did say that, but even so, a fourth realm cultivator is still a fourth realm cultivator. As long as one has reached this height, his martial arts knowledge and comprehension are beyond the reach of ordinary people. This Mr. Ning was able to defeat such an old monster without suffering fatal injuries. At least, it means that his strength is above the Qilin ancestors. As for how much stronger he is, no one knows." The Sky Ascension City Lord sighed softly. 100 years ago, in the ancient battlefield, when he schemed against the star venerables of the various regions, he still needed to use restrictions and fairy weapons. "I didn't expect that in just 100 years he would be able to look down on the strongest people in the world," the fourth divine general said with a complicated expression. "One's level of tolerance determines one's achievements, and vice versa. Looking at his words and actions today, he is definitely worthy of the evaluation of a heaven's chosen. Today, who still remembers that this Mr. Ning is only a young man who has cultivated for 100 years? Not to mention the younger generation of the various sects in the world. Even us old immortals who have lived for 1,000 years can't compare to him. The rumors and slanders of the world are mostly caused by jealousy and fear. If we also look at people with such eyes, how are we different from those people?" The Sky Eclipse City Lord said calmly, "City Lord, you are right. I know I was wrong." The fourth divine general bowed respectfully and said, "Sometimes trust is also a kind of cultivation." The Sky Ascension City Lord turned around and looked at the fourth divine general behind him. He said, "Birds of a feather flock together. If Luo Xingqian didn't steal the divine mark iron today, and Mr. Ning came to our city as a guest, would your impression of him change a little? By the same logic, since you could trust Luo Xingqian in the past, you should do the same now. Of course, since he made a mistake, he should be punished. Let him reflect in the celestial prison for a few days." The fourth divine general hesitated for a moment and said, "City Lord, Seventh Sister has been in charge of the celestial prison. I am worried that with Seventh Sister's temper, Luo Xingqian will suffer a lot. Now that Mr. Ning is here, do I need to warn Seventh Sister?" "Ha, no need." The Sky Ascension City Lord smiled faintly and said, "It's good to let him suffer a little. Haven't you seen Mr. Ning's attitude? If he really couldn't tell right from wrong, he would have saved him long ago. They are friends who have gone through life and death together, not fair-weather friends. Their friendship is not as shallow as you think. He would rather risk his life and enter the fallen soul abyss for Luo Xingqian's sake than to save him by force. Why? It's because he doesn't want his friend to bear a lifetime of bad reputation like him." Chapter 875. In the moonlit night, a cool breeze blew past. The sound of leaves rustling could be heard everywhere. In the fallen soul abyss, a white-haired figure in plain clothes walked forward. His expression was calm and peaceful. In the past 100 years he had gone through countless life and death situations. His knowing destiny heart was as calm as still water. The quiet autumn night gradually cooled down. His thin clothes danced in the wind. However, the figure walking forward did not seem to feel the chill of the night. After walking for more than an hour, the bright moon rose higher and higher in the east. The crescent moon curved and illuminated the mountain stream. Ayo! In the distance, a wolf's howl could be heard, echoing in the mountain stream. However, there were no traces of life in the mountain stream. If it were not for the scattered ancient trees, the entire fallen soul abyss would seem like a land of death. It made people shudder. Ningchen walked quietly in the abyss. There was not much change in his eyes. He had come to many unknown places like this before. He did not know when it started, but he had gradually forgotten his initial fear. Bang! 100 zhang away, an eagle's corpse fell down and smashed into a rock. Blood splashed several steps away. The night was so dazzling, as if it was reminding people where the fallen soul abyss came from. Ningchen was silent. He flipped his right hand and the rocks in the distance rumbled, burying the eagle's corpse into the ground. Caw! Somewhere, the caw of a black crow reverberated in the air above the abyss. After a while, it disappeared into the distance, making the silent night seem even colder. After walking for another hour, the color of the rocks around him gradually darkened. In the mountain stream, the power of the laws of heaven and earth became heavier. As far as his eyes could see, there was less and less life. Ningchen stopped and looked at the rocks around him. He waved his right hand and a sword light flashed past. Immediately, the mountain shook and rocks flew everywhere. A piece of rock flew in front of him. Ningchen grabbed it and scanned it with his spiritual sense. Then, he clenched his right hand and crushed the black rock in his hand. This place was indeed unusual. The special terrain and the power of the laws made the rocks here much stronger than normal rocks. However, this was not the Sick King Stone that the city lord of Tianhua City had mentioned. After thinking for a while, Ningchen continued forward. He released his spiritual sense and searched for the Sick King Stone. The cold moon moved west. In the fallen soul abyss, the temperature dropped lower and lower. After a while, the air condensed into frost. The path forward was covered in frost. Behind Ningchen on the mountain road, clear footprints appeared one after another. They got deeper and deeper, and gradually covered his ankles. After going more than 100 kilometers deep, the abyss had truly turned into a land of death. Everywhere was a ghastly hell. The heart-palpitating blackness had become the only visible sight. Ningchen's eyes gradually became serious. The silver light around his body shone brightly. Amidst the falling snow, his body slowly rose. Beneath him, there were knee-deep footprints, making it difficult to advance. The terrifying laws of the world wiped out all possibility of survival, making it difficult for humans and ghosts to enter. The wind and snow danced, paving the way forward. Ningchen walked forward step by step, the Zhen Qi in his body rapidly depleting as he constantly resisted the power of the world laws pressing down on him. With the three bodies gathered, his foundation was unparalleled. Under the fourth level, he was the true number one under the heavens, fighting against the heavens and earth once again. After another 100 miles, suddenly, a watery light entered Ningchen's eyes. Ningchen's pupils constricted as he strode forward. The 10-mile-long river was completely still. Not a single trace of life could be seen in the water. Although it was clear, it revealed an indescribable coldness. Yellow Spring's weak water. Ning Chen's expression turned serious as he looked at the end of the river. How could there be a weak water river in this place? After pondering for a long time, Ning Chen strode forward along the weak water river. 10 miles away, the river gradually dried up. Tens of thousands of years had passed, and the former direction of the river could no longer be seen. At the end of the weak water river, Ning Chen stopped and looked into the distance. A serious expression flashed across his face. The ghost girl had said that the weak water river was something unique to the underworld. It couldn't appear in the mortal world. Why would it appear here? Could it be that this was once the territory of the underworld? Or was there another reason? Unable to find an answer, Ning Chen could only temporarily suppress his thoughts. He turned back to look at the weak water river behind him. With a flip of his right hand, the phantom of a phoenix appeared behind him. With a phoenix cry, a broken green cauldron flew out. The weak water churned and poured in from all directions. In a short while, the water in the weak water river gradually dried up and was absorbed into the green cauldron. The green cauldron returned, and the phantom of the phoenix disappeared. Ning Chen wanted to continue forward, but after taking 2 steps, he turned back to look at the dried-up weak water river behind him. Unable to find an answer to the question in his heart, Ning Chen shouted. His vigorous true essence circulated, and a snowstorm filled the sky. With a slash of his sword, the ground within 10 miles split open. The ground split open, and the power of laws suddenly increased by 100-fold. The mountains shook and the earth cracked, and a dim light spread out from the ground. With a thump, Ning Chen's feet landed on the ground. Below him, the ground shook again, and 100 miles split open. Ning Chen fell into the crack faster and faster. His eyes sank, and Genesis and astral souls appeared in his hands at the same time. He stabbed his sword into the broken wall, forcibly stopping his fall. The black broken wall was bottomless. Ning Chen looked down, and after a while, he pulled out his sword and quickly fell down again. Sword light streaked across the stone wall, and sparks flew everywhere. 10 miles, 50 miles, 200 miles. Ning Chen didn't know how deep he fell. The dim light in the crack grew brighter and brighter, and the temperature also rose. Descending another 50 miles, the heat wave soared into the sky. Ning Chen felt that it was increasingly difficult to breathe. The cold air around him spread rapidly, resisting the heat wave from below. At the same time, outside the crack, the bright moon moved west. The night gradually passed, and the sun rose from the east. Dawn arrived. Below the Ruoshui River, Ning Chen stabbed his sword into the stone wall, and his body continued to fall. In the rising heat wave, the dim light spread out, making people feel an inexplicable fear. In the horizon, the sun rose higher and higher. Below the abyss, the dim light spread out from the ground, dyeing half of the fallen soul abyss dark and gloomy. It was like a ghost hell in the mortal world, and gods and Buddhas retreated. In the Sky Pass City, in the Sky Prison, Luo Xingqian was lying on the ground with nothing to do. She had a withered grass in her mouth, and was humming a tune out of boredom. At this moment, the gate of the Sky Prison rumbled open, and the 7th godly general walked in. Seeing Luo Xingqian in a daze, the suppressed anger in his heart surged out again. Luo Xingqian, the 7th godly general said. 7th sister. Seeing who it was, Luo Xingqian jumped up with a joyful expression. Who is your 7th sister? Where did you hide the divine mark iron? Tell me the truth and avoid unnecessary pain. The 7th godly general said with a cold face. Did the city lord agree to let me out? Luo Xingqian asked doubtfully. So what if I let you out? So what if I don't? The 7th godly general's expression sank as she said angrily. 7th sister, don't be angry. I was just asking. Luo Xingqian smiled apologetically. Tell me the whereabouts of the divine mark iron, and the city lord might consider reducing your punishment. Otherwise, you can prepare to spend the rest of your life here. The 7th godly general said angrily. The divine mark iron is in a place that only I can find. 7th sister, as long as the city lord agrees to let me out, I will bring 7th sister to get it. Luo Xingqian smiled shamelessly. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Hearing this, the seventh godly general's expression turned cold. She clenched her delicate hand, and a greenish-brown whip appeared. She poured her true qi into it, and lashed out at the person in the prison. Pa! A loud whip sound rang out as the long whip lashed out. Luo Xingqian did not have time to react, and the clothes on his arm were torn apart. A bright red mark appeared, and the pain pierced his heart. Aya! Luo Xingqian sucked in a breath of cold air from the pain. He grimaced and said, "Seventh sister, why did you hit me?" "I'm hitting you, you ungrateful bastard." The seventh godly general's heart turned cold. She withdrew the whip, and immediately lashed out again. She avoided the vital parts of the former, but she did not show any mercy. Seeing this, Luo Xingqian hurriedly dodged. However, in the sky prison, there were layers of seals that suppressed his body, and his movements were restricted. Before he could dodge, he was hit by the whip again, and the pain pierced his heart. "Seventh sister, please spare me." Seeing that the seventh godly general was really angry, Luo Xingqian ran while begging for mercy. The seventh godly general's face was cold. She lashed out with the whip again and again, lashing out at the person in the prison. For a moment, the sky prison was filled with painful cries one after another. It made one's hair stand on end. Outside the sky prison, the second and sixth godly generals looked at each other as they saw the situation inside. They could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. Women were really not to be trifled with. Mr. Ning had already negotiated with the city lord. As long as the sickly king's stone was found, he would release Luo Xingqian. Seventh sister was obviously here to vent her anger. This kid was really unlucky. However, the city lord also said that it was good to let this kid suffer a little. In thousands of years, this guy was the first person who dared to steal the holy city's sacred object. What's going on inside? At this moment, an old voice sounded behind the two of them. Hearing the voice behind them, the second and sixth godly generals were shocked. They immediately turned around and bowed respectfully. "Greetings, City Lord." The Sky Eclipse City Lord nodded. "Is little Seven inside?" The two godly generals looked at each other and nodded. Reporting to City Lord, "Seventh sister is indeed inside. Do you need us to go in and inform her?" "No need. Open the door." The Sky Eclipse City Lord said indifferently. "Yes." The two of them bowed again and replied. As the three of them were talking, the cries of pain in the sky prison became more and more tragic. Each cry was louder than the previous. In the sky prison, Luo Xingqian was constantly dodging the long whips that were coming at him. The clothes on his body were torn apart, and there were bloodstains all over his body. He looked extremely miserable. "If you don't stop, I'll fight back." Ouch! After dodging the whip with great difficulty, Luo Xingqian turned around and shouted. The whip hit his shoulder, causing him to grimace in pain. "Fight back. You still dare to fight back? Try fighting back." The seventh godly general's whip did not stop as he shouted angrily. "Seventh sister, I was wrong. I won't dare to do it again." A wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. Luo Xingqian ran while begging for mercy. "If you knew this would happen, you wouldn't have done it in the first place." The seventh godly general's face darkened. He waved his whip and said angrily, "Luo Xingqian, do you know how much trouble you've caused for the holy city and your friends? In order to make up for your mistakes, Mr. Ning has entered the fallen soul abyss for nearly 2 days, and has yet to return." "What?" Luo Xingqian heard this and his expression changed. He reached out and grabbed the whip. His eyes were gloomy as he said, "You said Ning Chen entered the fallen soul abyss." Chapter 876. In the fallen soul abyss, under the yellow spring river, a dim light rose and a terrifying heat wave spread out, twisting the space around it. Under the ground, Bai Yi held her sword as her figure continued to fall. 10 miles, 100 miles, there was no sign of her stopping. In the eerie hell, the dim light covered the eyes as the temperature continued to rise. It was getting more and more unbearable. Around Ningchun, snow swirled. resisting the corrosion of the dim light. However, as he fell deeper and deeper, he felt more and more tired. Phoenix body. With a shout, a red light rose and a phoenix appeared. It protected Ning Chen's body as she flew down. Half an hour later, in the dark underground world, the phoenix dispersed and Bai Yi appeared. Looking at the shocking scene around her, her heart was in turmoil. All around, black magma surged and the temperature was terrifying. It had never been seen before, and it was terrifying. Ning Chen strode forward. Wind and snow gathered beneath him, paving a path in front of him and blocking the surging black lava. Be careful, the magma here is not normal. A red light rose, and the phoenix body appeared. Looking at the earth fire below, it said, "Yeah." Ning Chen nodded. He glanced down and said, "The fire elemental energy here is shocking. It will be useful to us in the future. Can we take it away?" "Let me try," the phoenix body replied. It turned its palm and condensed energy. The phoenix shadow behind it spread out its wings and phoenix fire spread out. Endless devouring power circulated and covered the entire underground world. Extreme young phoenix fire and Yin earth fire devoured each other. The two forces collided, causing the ground below to rumble. Waves of fire soared into the sky and formed a black pillar. Ha! With the laws of heaven and earth, Ning Chen's body was restricted. When the phoenix body's aura was about to run out, Ning Chen rushed forward and activated the 4 scrolls. His true yuan poured into the phoenix body. The two of them worked together, and the phoenix roared. Phoenix fire filled the sky and forcefully suppressed the Yin earth fire. After half an hour, the fire elemental energy in the underground world was gradually devoured. The flames were extinguished and huge black pillars stood up one after another, reaching hundreds of feet. The phoenix body dissipated and returned to its original body. Ning Chen looked at the surrounding black rocks and a strange light flashed in his eyes. Maybe he knew what the Sick King Stone was. Ning Chen brandished his astral soul, slashing apart the petrified lava with a single slash. His silhouette flickered as he continued diving downwards. 10 miles deep, the pressure increased exponentially, and the hardness of the black rocks became even more shocking. All of a sudden, on the deepest rock wall, a thumb-sized black crystal appeared. It contained a shocking amount of fire yuan power, which could be sensed clearly even from far away. Sick King sure? Ning Chen's eyes narrowed. He dashed forward and slammed his palm on the wall. Instantly, cracks spread out and the black crystal flew into his hand. As he probed with his divine sense, he felt a burning pain. Ning Chen retracted his divine sense, and a serious expression flashed across his face. It was indeed not an ordinary item. No wonder the Sky Pass City Lord had been looking for this item. A strange stone with such pure fire essence energy was a treasure that could only be found by chance, whether it was used to refine tools or to assist one's cultivation. Perhaps it could only appear in the fallen soul abyss, where the power of laws was peculiar. Thinking up to this point, Ning Chen waved his hand to keep the Sick King Stone and plunged down again. An eerie light surrounded his body, and the terrifying gravity was even more unbearable. It was as if 1,000 mountains were pressing down on him, making it difficult to breathe. After another 100 miles, Ning Chen stopped. With the power of laws on his body, his cultivation was severely hindered, making it difficult for him to move forward. You can't go any further. Demonic chi surged and the demonic body appeared. It looked at the surging light and said, "This power comes from underground. If we want to obtain enough Sick King Stones, we have to keep going," Ning Chen said solemnly. "Haven't you guessed why Sky Pass City has only obtained a few Sick King Stones in the past 1,000 years? The power of laws here is so strong that even true boundary cultivators find it difficult to resist. If we go any further, it will be a truly dangerous place." The demonic body said, "We came here for the Sick King Stone, so we can't give up halfway. Otherwise, we won't be able to give the Sky Pass City Lord an explanation for the falling star matter," Ning Chen said. "Is falling stars matter more important? Or is your own life more important? I don't want to listen to you anymore. I can only listen to your orders because we have the same goal at this stage. If you continue to be stubborn, don't blame me for forcefully seizing control of this body," the demonic body said coldly. Ning Chen was silent for a moment, then he said, I will be careful. Just as you said, we have the same goal at this stage. Saving Falling Star is also part of it. In addition, this sick kingstone is a rare treasure in the world. If we can obtain it, it will be of great benefit to us. The demonic body looked at the main body in front of it, and a cold light flashed in its deep eyes. After a long time it said, I will trust you one more time. However, once I find that there is danger, I will not cooperate with you anymore. Don't worry. Ningchen nodded and said calmly, at this stage, it won't be that easy to take our lives. The demonic body looked at the former deeply, and without saying anything more, it disappeared and merged into the body. After reaching a temporary agreement, Ningchen looked down. The wind and clouds on the Star Soul sword changed, and with a slash of the sword, the earth shook and the huge crack continued to spread. In the next moment, Bai Yi flashed and disappeared into the dark light again. Outside the abyss, day after day passed. On the third day, 3 figures appeared on the cliff. The one in the lead was Falling Star, who had just come out of the Sky Prison. Your friend will be fine. Behind them, the Sky Ascension City Lord calmly said, Mr. Ning's strength surpasses mine. Even if he can't find enough sick kingstones, it shouldn't be a problem for him to protect himself. On the cliff, Falling Star looked down, and his expression was unprecedentedly serious. He said, City Lord, I know very well what kind of place the Fallen Soul Abyss is. I have already told the City Lord the whereabouts of the sacred Mark Iron. The City Lord can just send someone to get it. I am deeply sorry for bringing so much trouble to the Holy City. No matter what, I cannot let my friend bear this mistake. I will go find him and bring him back. The seal in your body has just been undone, and your cultivation hasn't fully recovered. Once you encounter any danger, you will be in a very passive position. Why don't you wait a few more days? It won't be too late to go down after your cultivation recovers. The 7th Godly General said with a dignified expression. No need. Thank you for your kindness, 7th Sister. I will be careful. Falling Star nodded and didn't say anything else. He took a step forward and rushed down. The 7th Godly General stepped forward and reached out to stop him, but he was already a step too late. Let him go. Although Mr. Ning is his best friend in life and death, and is willing to make up for his mistakes, he still has to bear the consequences of his own mistakes. No one can bear the consequences for him forever. The Skysoar City Lord said. The 7th Godly General wanted to say something but hesitated. A moment later he sighed and respectfully bowed. This subordinate understands. Let's go back. After the Sky Ascension City Lord said this, his figure dissipated and he left the cliff. The 7th Godly General looked at the purple-clothed figure that disappeared into the Fallen Soul Abyss with a complicated expression. He sighed again and also left. Within the Fallen Soul Abyss, a purple light flashed as he rushed towards the deepest part of the abyss. With this worry in his heart, Falling Star's speed became faster and faster. He fully released his middle corporeal realm cultivation to resist the power of laws that filled the world. After traveling for more than 2 hours, the power of laws suddenly increased several times over. A dim light spread out, as heavy as a mountain. This is... Falling Star's eyes narrowed. He looked at the dim light in front of him and rushed forward without hesitation. Under the cold moon, in the depths of the Fallen Soul Abyss, the earth was filled with crisscrossing fissures. At the ruins of the Ruoshui River, an astonishing sword mark cut through the earth. Dim light gushed out, shocking everyone. Falling Star arrived. He paused for a moment, and then jumped down. In the underground abyss, the power of laws of the world reached its peak, and became increasingly terrifying. With every mile he traveled, the pressure around him became heavier. Falling Star's body couldn't keep up, and a trace of red overflowed from the corner of his mouth. He waved his left hand and the star mark appeared. A red arrow was placed on the bow and a crescent moon appeared, breaking through the sky. When martial arts reached the peak, it formed its own path. The divine arrow pierced through the air, and formed a line between heaven and earth, forming a forbidden domain. Falling Star's figure rapidly descended once more, searching for the whereabouts of his close friend. Just as Falling Star rushed over, A dim light spread out from the depths of the earth. A white-robed figure rushed over, wind and snow swirling around him. Sword light opened up a path, not stopping for a moment. Ning Chen's calm eyes were filled with determination. His sword cut through all obstacles, not wavering in the slightest. Thousands of miles deep, the dim light was almost solid. A terrifying power that exceeded the limits of one's body pressed down from all directions. It was so heavy that it made it hard for one to breathe. Suddenly, the dim light below surged, flourishing to the extreme. Ning Chen's eyes narrowed and he stopped. His astral souls revolved and sword chi filled the air, breaking through the air. With a rumbling sound, the power of laws collided. The rumbling sound reverberated throughout the entire underground world. Wherever the aftershock passed, the earth collapsed and rocks cracked. Waves of dust rose up. I've finally arrived. At the end of the underground world, Ning Chen's figure landed. The wind and snow around him blocked the dim light. His footsteps were extremely heavy. After the dust settled, a familiar scene entered his eyes. The Azura hell was dark and gloomy. Looking at the scene in front of him, Ning Chen could no longer conceal the shock on his face. Was this the underworld? In front of him, there was a dried-up river. There wasn't a single drop of water. On the riverbank, traces of the past could be seen on the bottomless wreckage of a wooden boat. The water was 3,000 meters deep, and the reed flowers sank to the bottom. This incomparably familiar scene caused the hearts of those who returned from hell to tremble. Taking a step forward, Ning Chen's figure sped forward. His heart that had been calm for 100 years could no longer remain calm at this moment. In the world beyond heavens, there was indeed a legend of the underworld. However, he thought that it was just a coincidence. However, the scene in front of him clearly told him that this wasn't a coincidence. The underworld really did exist in the world beyond heavens. Crossing the Yellow Springs River, Ning Chen sped forward. Despite the increasingly terrifying power of laws surrounding him, he didn't stop for even a moment. 100 miles away, a majestic gate stood in front of the stone mansion. Above it, there were 4 blurry words. Time was merciless, swallowing everything of the past. When Ning Chen saw the 4 words above the gate, he came to a halt. Netherworld, Underworld. Chapter 877. In front of the gate of hell in the underworld, the first person came after so many years. Ning Chen stopped and looked ahead. His heart was in turmoil. The familiar scene was exactly the same as in his memory. The memories that had been buried for a long time came back at this moment and attacked his mind. During the most painful time in the past, the beautiful figure in red was always by his side. It was hard to understand and unforgettable. He pushed the stone door with his trembling hand. Even if his heart was as hard as steel, he could not keep calm at this moment. A rumbling sound was heard. The history that had been buried for tens of thousands of years reappeared in the world. Behind the gate of hell, a huge space appeared. The familiar altar came into view. However, the demon blade and the divine sword were no longer there. Why? Even though Ning Chen was peerless in wisdom, even though he was the crown in both civil and military affairs, but when faced with these scenes that were difficult to explain, Ning Chen's eyes were unable to clear up any longer. Bewilderment, shock, and various other complicated emotions appeared in his eyes and in his heart. Walking forward step by step, Ning Chen looked at the altar in front of him. On the altar, the traces left by the sword were faintly visible. Apparently, countless years ago, this was indeed the place where the weapons were placed. Ning Chen. Suddenly, a gentle voice came from behind him. It was so familiar that it was unforgettable. Ning Chen's body trembled fiercely as he turned around in disbelief. What entered his eyes was a woman in a bright red wedding dress, standing there silently. The red veil on her head had already been removed, and her gorgeous and dazzling appearance caused one to be unable to move their gazes away. Ghost woman. Ning Chen lost control of his mind and his body trembled. He raised his hand, but could not help but retract it after a moment. An inexplicable fear rose in his heart. He feared that this was just his dream and would be shattered with a touch. "I'm back," she said softly. In front of him, a gentle smile appeared on the ghost woman's face. It was so bright and beautiful, as if she was comforting the panicked young man in front of her. The young man who was not famous in the 9 heavens yet. Hearing this familiar voice again, Ningchen reached out his trembling right hand. His palm touched his face. He felt a slight chill. It was so clear that it flowed into his heart and warmed his broken heart. Ghost woman. Ningchen could not help but hug the woman in front of him. His trembling body still could not calm down. He hugged the warmth in his arms tightly, and did not want to let go for a moment. "I'm back." As she comforted him softly, the gentleness on the ghostly woman's face became even more apparent. Her overly white and slender hands hugged the man in her embrace. She did not struggle or say anything as she waited for him to calm down. After an unknown period of time, the waves in Ningchen's heart gradually calmed down. Taking half a step back, he looked at the woman in his arms and said softly, "Are you all right? I heard from Sister Qing Ning that when you were patrolling with the immortal corpse, there was something wrong with your condition. You didn't seem to have regained consciousness." "I'm fine." The ghost girl smiled warmly and said softly, "Can you tell me what happened?" Ningchen said, "It's a long story. I'll tell you in the future. Why are you here? Where are Sister Qing Ning and the others?" Ghost girl asked gently. "Sister Qing Ning and the others have temporarily returned to the inner realm. I came here to find the sick King Stone in exchange for the falling star." Ningchen replied honestly, "Sick King sure." Hearing this, the ghost girl's eyes flashed with a strange light, making it hard for others to understand. "What's wrong? Do you know where Wang Shi is?" Ningchen was puzzled. "No idea." The ghost girl shook her head and said, "I've only heard of it, but I've never seen it before." Ningchen had heard of it and nodded. He didn't think much about it. It was indeed difficult to find. He had almost turned the entire fallen soul abyss upside down, but he only found a thumb-sized piece. It was easy to imagine how precious it was. "I've been unconscious for too long. There are many things I don't know. Can you tell me about it?" Ghost girl asked softly. "Okay." Ningchen nodded. His eyes were filled with gentleness. "When you were in trouble, it was during the chaos of the 4 extreme realms. That master of the 4 extreme realms." Just as the two were talking about the past, Falling Star was rapidly moving down the abyss. He felt an inexplicable uneasiness, and it was getting stronger and stronger. Knowing destiny, the strong uneasiness lingered. Falling Star released all his cultivation and opened the path with a divine arrow. His figure flashed and rushed down. 10 miles, 100 miles. After an unknown amount of time, black pillars appeared in front of him. They were hundreds of feet tall, majestic and shocking. The remaining fire essence could be vaguely felt. Falling Star released his divine sense, and sensed the remaining aura of phoenix fire in the void. He looked at the huge crack below and continued moving down without stopping. 100 miles, 200 miles, 300 miles. The farther he went from the ground, the stronger the power of laws between heaven and earth. The divine arrow that broke through the void was dazzling. It forcefully split the dim light and opened a path of life and death. After moving down 1,000 miles, Falling Star's body began to crack. Blood flowed out and dyed his clothes red. However, he was still worried about his friend. Falling Star ignored his body that couldn't bear the power of laws between heaven and earth, and continued to rush down. After another 100 miles, the dim light suddenly became more intense. The arrow light shattered and couldn't pass the heaven pass. "Star Mark, lend me a hand." Feeling that his friend's aura was not far away, Falling Star whispered. Blood overflowed from his hands and dyed the bow red. The next moment, Star Mark filled the bow, and the blood-colored divine arrow shot into the sky. With a rumble, a gap appeared in the steaming dim light. Falling Star's figure flashed through and disappeared into it. In the underground world, the ghastly hell, Falling Star's figure flashed. Looking at the underground world, shock flashed across his face. What is this place? It was a scene that he had never seen before. It was so eerie that it sent chills down his spine. Falling Star didn't have time to think. He took a step forward and continued to follow the aura left by knowing destiny. On the Ruashui River, the bottomless wooden boat flashed past with a purple light. After another 100 miles, a huge stone gate appeared in front of him. The aura of time was overwhelming. Feeling the aura of his friend inside, Falling Star heaved a sigh of relief. He came to the stone mansion and looked inside. Suddenly his pupil shrank. Inside the ghost gate, Ningchen accompanied the ghost lady and softly told her about the past. From quelling the chaos of the four poles, to suppressing the eternal night sect, to the battle of gods, to the upheaval of the central state, to the battle of the ancient battlefield. One after another, earth-shattering events filled in the long 100 years. On the side, the ghost lady listened quietly with a gentle smile on her beautiful face. At the end of the story, Ningchen looked at the woman beside him and said gently, "This is what happened in the 100 years when you were in a coma. There are some other small things that I will tell you in the future." "Okay." The ghost lady smiled and nodded. Looking at the person beside her gently, she said softly, "So many things happened in the 100 years. I really want to listen to you for a while more. Unfortunately, I won't have the chance." As soon as she finished speaking, the ghost lady's eyes suddenly turned red. A purple gold long sword appeared in her hand. Without any warning, the sword pierced into the heart of the person in front of her. Chapter 878. In the Netherworld, behind the gates of hell, a shocking scene appeared. The divine sword in the ghost girl's hand pierced through her chest, causing blood to splatter everywhere. "Arg!" A muffled groan could be heard. His eyes were filled with sorrow. Although it was only a momentary suspicion, the scene of a dream coming true made the knowing destiny state who had been on guard for 100 years no longer calm down. "Why?" Ningchen lifted his hand and gently touched the face of the girl in front of him. Blood flowed from his mouth as he asked sadly, "Those who trespass into the netherworld shall be killed without mercy." The girl in red's eyes were bloodshot. She pulled out the divine sword in her hand and slammed her palm on Ningchen's chest. "Arg!" Ningchen was heavily injured again. His blood was dyed red as he retreated a dozen steps. He spat out a mouthful of blood which stained the ground. Knowing destiny state. Outside the gates of hell, Luo Xingchen rushed over and supported Ningchen. He looked at the girl in red with killing intent. "Friend." Ningchen's consciousness gradually blurred. He could no longer see the person in front of him clearly. He fell into his friend's arms and fainted. Luo Xingchen lifted his hand and pressed on Ningchen's chest a few times to seal his severely injured heart. He tore his clothes and tied his friend behind his back. His trembling hands were dyed red with blood. "Kill!" The girl in red shouted coldly. Behind her, 4 black illusions appeared with huge black scythes in their hands. They emitted a threatening cold light. "Good friend, you've been smart all your life. Can't you see that this is all an illusion? Or are you unwilling to believe the truth, and are willing to fall?" Luo Xingchen said softly. He picked up the sword that his friend dropped on the ground. His figure flashed as he slashed towards the girl in front of him. The 2 swords clashed and a violent tremor resounded through the gates of hell. Luo Xingchen's hand that was holding the sword was bleeding profusely. However, he was not willing to take half a step back. He released his true energy and forced the person in front of him to retreat. Swish! The black scythes of the 4 soul reapers swept across. The sound of clothes being torn could be heard. Luo Xingchen's shoulders and chest were heavily injured. His bones were exposed and blood was gushing out like a fountain. "Are you so fascinated by manipulating other people's emotions?" Luo Xingchen ignored his injuries and took a step forward. He grabbed the sword in the girl's hand and forcefully slashed it. With a loud bang, the black sickle blocked the sword edge. The woman in red took advantage of the opportunity to gather her palm energy and hit the former's chest. The fierce palm landed on his body, and the remaining force penetrated his body. Bloody mist gushed out in a glaring manner. "You still haven't answered me. Is manipulating other people's emotions so fascinating to you?" Not willing to take a single step back, Falling Star allowed the palm strike to land on his body. The astral soul in his hand repelled the black scythe as he slashed down with his sword. As the sword touched her body, black smoke filled the air. The red-clothed woman's figure flickered, showing signs of instability. Did I allow you to die? Answer me. Luo Xingchen's face darkened. The real qi around his body surged and fixed the dispersing phantom. The redness in the red-robed woman's eyes intensified. She gathered the power of heaven and earth in her palm, and struck the man's chest again. Palm strike after palm strike, waterfall after waterfall of blood. However, Falling Star didn't seem to notice. He forcefully used his true essence to stabilize the illusory figure in front of him. The coldness in his eyes pierced the heart. The four soul gatherers waved their black scythes, taking lives with every move. However, tens of thousands of years had passed, and the power of the array had weakened to the extreme. It was difficult for it to display its former might. The astral soul blocked the black scythe and slashed down again and again. The four soul gatherers dispersed one after another, disappearing from the world. Inside the gates of hell, in front of the altar, blood had stained every inch of the ground. The red-clothed woman who was forced to stay in the mortal world became increasingly unstable. The black smoke dissipated, and the power of heaven and earth kept leaving her body. Answer me. Raising his hand to grab the woman's throat, Falling Star's eyes were filled with rage as he shouted. In an instant, the red-clothed woman's figure dissipated. She couldn't stay any longer and returned to the world. The woman's figure dissipated, and the illusion was instantly broken. Not far away, a pearl dimmed and cracks appeared. Soon after, it shattered with a bang. Falling Star stood quietly, looking at the shattered beast core not far away. He clenched his fists so tightly that cracking sounds could be heard. Rumble. At this moment, the cave began to shake violently. Boulder after boulder fell from above, and smashed into the ground. A faint brilliance spread out from every crack. It was as heavy as a mountain, making it difficult for one to breathe. Falling Star's figure swayed a few times, and the sword in his hand stabbed into the ground. He steadied himself and looked at the brilliance that permeated the surroundings. He didn't stay any longer and rushed out with his severely injured and unconscious close friend. Just as he took a step, Falling Star's figure suddenly stopped. He looked back and saw that in the depths of the cave, there was a terrifying fire elemental aura overflowing from the huge crack. It was blazing and pure. Sick Kingstone. Falling Star's expression shook. His figure turned back, and as he moved, he avoided the falling rocks and quickly rushed into the depths of the cave. In front of the huge crack, a heat wave surged, making it difficult for one to take even half a step closer. The cave behind him collapsed without any delay. Falling Star didn't hesitate and rushed into the crack in front of him. The dim light pressed down on his body, and the heat wave burned his eyes. Falling Star, who was already severely injured, had blood constantly evaporating from his body. It was becoming increasingly difficult for him to maintain his cultivation. In front of him, in the crack, a strange black stone that had been buried for an unknown number of years appeared. Black flames shone, burning the surrounding laws of heaven and earth. Falling Star's figure rushed over. He raised his hand to grab the sick king's stone and quickly rushed out. The sword tip shook the huge rock and swept away the obstacles in his way. Falling Star's figure swept past, and quickly escaped out of the netherworld cave. In the endless underground abyss, there was no exit. Falling Star summoned the star mark and drew his bow. The arrow light soared into the sky, opening a path of life and death. With the laws of heaven and earth on his body, it was as if his body was being pressed down by thousands of pounds. Falling Star's body was full of cracks. He endured the heavy injuries and didn't dare to stop for even a moment. Sky Moon Sacred City. The Sky Moon City Lord stood quietly in the small pavilion in the west courtyard. He looked into the distance and waited patiently. The cold moon hung high in the sky, and the night was bone-chilling. At this moment, a purple figure rushed over. Before he could say a word, he vomited a mouthful of blood and fell straight down. Seeing this, the Sky Moon City Lord's expression froze. His figure flashed and went forward to support the former. He frowned slightly. Outside the small pavilion, the 4th and 7th Divine Generals' expressions changed slightly. They immediately went forward to check the situation. Not good. The Sky Moon City Lord checked the two's situation. His gaze froze. How did they get so injured? Although the fallen soul abyss was dangerous, these two were not ordinary people. It shouldn't be difficult for them to survive. City Lord, the seventh divine general said with a worried expression. Bring them to the sacred pond immediately. The Sky Moon City Lord said. Yes. The fourth and seventh divine generals accepted the order and brought the two to the back of the sacred city. Cold chi rose from the Sky Moon sacred pond. In a secret area of the sacred city, 3 figures arrived. 2 divine generals went forward and placed the 2 heavily injured people in the sacred pond. City Lord Xingchen's injuries? The 4th divine general looked at the City Lord and asked worriedly. His life is in danger. The Sky Moon City Lord said with a serious expression. Although his strength is not inferior to yours, his cultivation is only at the middle stage of the corporeal realm. In addition, his body is not at its peak. If he forcefully enters the fallen soul abyss, he will be severely injured. Now most of his meridians are damaged and he only has half of his life left. But, speaking of this, the Sky Moon City Lord looked at the white-haired figure in the sacred pond. His expression darkened. Compared to Xingchen, this Mr. Ning's injuries are more worrying. A sword pierced through his body and severely damaged his heart meridians. He didn't even have a chance to resist. I can't believe that there is someone in this world who has such strength and can severely injure him in one move. 4th realm. The 7th divine general asked. Doesn't seem like it. The Skysore City Lord shook his head. If it was the 4th realm, it would have been impossible for Starfall to save him. Let's stop guessing for now. What we need to do now is to wake these two up as soon as possible. Little 7 heals Starfall's wounds. As soon as he finished speaking, the Sky Moon City Lord stepped forward. He turned his palm and condensed energy, pouring it into the plain-clothed youth's body. The 7th divine general also focused his mind and gathered his true chi to help Xingchen heal. Time passed little by little. In front of the sacred pond, the Sky Moon City Lord frowned more and more. What was going on? This boy's injuries were automatically healing? No longer interfering, the Sky Moon City Lord stopped and waited calmly. Behind them, the 4th divine general, who was guarding the two, was puzzled. He asked, City Lord, what happened? I'm not sure. This boy's body is not right. It is automatically healing his heart meridians. The Sky Moon City Lord said. Hearing this, the 4th divine general was shocked. There was actually such a thing. Without the transcending mortality body, the physical body was shackled, and the heart meridians were severely damaged. It was an almost irreversible injury. With the help of the sacred pond, frost gradually appeared around Ningchen's body, floating on the surface of the water. In an instant, tiny ice crystals formed on the surface of the sacred pond. It was unusually beautiful and intoxicating. The 4th divine general looked at this shocking scene, and his eyes were filled with disbelief. The sacred pond had never frozen. The current situation meant that the spiritual power of the sacred pond was rapidly fading. City Lord. The 4th divine general came back to his senses and hurriedly reminded. The Sky Moon City Lord raised his hand and interrupted the 4th divine general. He looked forward and said seriously, this is a matter of life and death. Let's save him first. The 4th divine general had no choice but to swallow his words and wait anxiously. On the other side, after the 7th divine general stabilized Xingchen's injuries, he withdrew his true chi. Only then did he notice the scene next to him, and his face was filled with shock. Time passed and the night gradually passed. In the east, dawn was approaching. In the sacred pond, half of the water had already frozen, and the spiritual chi had mostly dissipated. At this moment in the sacred pond, the silhouette in plain clothes slowly opened his eyes. After a short moment of confusion, memories came flooding back. Ningchen stood up and saw the 3 figures standing quietly beside the sacred pond. He did not say a word and bowed respectfully. His heart was deeply hurt and his memories were deeply buried. Ningchen's sorrowful eyes regained their calmness and his broken heart was as firm as a rock again. Ha! With a light shout, the sky was filled with frost. Ningchen turned his palm and condensed the life scroll. His true chi flowed continuously into his close friend's body to heal his injuries. The trip in front of the gate of hell was unforgettable. The road ahead was not over yet. He should not be so weak. His indulgence in the beautiful dream made him lose himself, and unwilling to wake up. How naive and stupid he was. This time, if Luo Xingqian had not risked his life to save him, he might not have been able to come back. From now on, this kind of thing would never happen again. He was in the knowing destiny state. He did not have the right to be weak. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.